Hello? Yeah. Meeting called to order at 7 p.m. on February 12th, 2020. Well, notice to the student body. All students are members and participants in student government, and as such are encouraged part in discussion of Senate bills and orders or issues affecting students. Please wait to be recognized by the chair and be courteous to others wishing to speak. We'll go ahead and move into roll call. Senator Advet. Olicard. Bender. Blair. Khan. Crab. Culbertson. Dowlinger. Fritz. Green. Gonzalez.
Here.
Han Young. Easley. Johnson. Class. Klein. Klein. Lipford. Ludwig. Mass. Meredith. Mitchell. Orger.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Rinchi.
Here.
Rolling. Samanu. Schrader. Searles. Stanley. Samuel.
Here.
Tonette. Zastro. Blair. Ludwig. Mass. Mitchell. Rolling. Samanu. We do have quorum. We'll go ahead and move into Pledge of Allegiance led by Speaker Culbertson.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on. Programs. We have our Hillary. Would you be able to approach the lectern? The interim dean of the library.
Oh, I really hate podiums. I really do discriminate against short people. Sorry. Good evening. And thank you for welcoming, or thank you for inviting me over tonight. Really excited about being able to present some of the library services. I don't have a clicker. So, all right, go ahead. I'm just going to jump right into this. So I'm very excited to be here because we've always partnered with GSB, and even just recently, you all helped pass a resolution that supported our negotiations with publishers, and those weren't just artificially, we just came up with them, or we came up with them specifically for our current negotiation, which is with Elsevier. These went through a long process of vetting and trying to determine where we actually wanted to get to with all of our vendors and publishers. We feel like we have fiscal responsibilities to make sure that we are getting the best pricing possible and being able to provide all the databases and journals and information that you all need, and our faculty as well. We've also had GSB serve on many of our committees and certainly help get our message out across campus. So I do appreciate all the work that you do and the partnering that you do with us. So one thing that was brought up when I was asked to speak tonight is tech lending. Apparently this is a big interest, and based on the numbers, it is absolutely one of our biggest services right now. We have over 100 laptops and iPads, and those include Macs and PCs, and they get checked out a lot. If you ever have a chance to come in and look at the racks on the walls where where they sleep at night and they get recharged during the day, all those slots will be empty. And it's not just laptops and iPads. We do provide other equipment to make sure that if you come to campus, you forget your power charger, your headphones, whatever, we provide a lot of that as well. We have business and graphing calculators. We also have electronic hardware kits like Makey Makey and Raspberry Pi. So if you're interested in playing with some of those, come on and check them out. These are 1 day or 1 week checkouts. And I was also, okay, so sorry. On our laptops and iPad or laptops, it's the same software that you will find on all of our public computers as well. I was asked about free software. That's not a library service. That's actually university IT services. So if you go through their website, you'll find a link for students specifically, and you can find the software there. So one thing I did want to mention is we've been really thinking about our fee structures, our fines, and we don't consider that we don't like the idea around charging students for late returns and things like that. From us, it's not a social justice perspective that we want to have. So we've actually started rethinking some of these fees, and we've removed all the fees from tech lending except for replacement and processing fees. So charging the fees for late returns really wasn't a motivating factor for students, and they just ended up with large charges on their U-bills. So we really tried to rethink what would get students to bring our equipment back so that other students could check things out, because as I told you, these get used a lot, and we want to make sure that everyone has access to these laptops as they need them, or iPads, whatever. So we're actually looking more at for our repeat offenders to say, if you can't get them back to us, you can't check them out for a few days, and see if that will kind of encourage people to bring them in, return them, come back, check them out again if they need them. So really to allow everyone to have access to these laptops and equipment. So I wanted to just hit on some things that you might not be as familiar with. Some of these are new, some of these are just kind of overlooked sometimes. And the libraries really tried to make sure that wellness is an aspect of I don't want to say services, but wellness is taken into consideration. We've always had leisure collections. I don't know if you know about the leisure collection. It's in the fireplace reading room. So as you go into bookends, those books in there are meant for more leisure reading. So there's fiction, there's biographies, there's history, there's cookbooks. These are part of our permanent collection, but as they come in, we set them out for leisure reading, and then they get reintegrated back into our main collection. We also have a media collection, and no, they're not research materials, but sometimes you just need a break, right? So we've got movies, we've got TV series, we have music. So, and all of those items can be checked out as well. And movies, you can check them out for a week, and renew them as you want. We also have the International Nest, which is down in the lower level. We want to encourage our international students to come join us and feel more welcome and comfortable in the library. We've created a space for them. There's quite a bit of programming down there, including they do lunch at the library every second Tuesday. They have a game night every third Thursday, and they learn English together. And this is not just for our international students. This is for anyone who wants to come join them and meet them and learn from them, and just have some fun. Apparently game night gets pretty rowdy. We've even tried karaoke, and that went over quite well. I will not be joining them for karaoke. Sorry. With our new and improved restrooms, we now have a gender inclusive restroom. So family, for disabilities and for gender. And just okay, so over the summer, some students came back, and they were actually male students, and we told them we had fixed up the restrooms, and they got really excited. And I'm like, wow, our bathrooms must have been really bad for folks to get excited about bathrooms, but they're nice, shiny bathrooms. We're very happy. During this process, we also created a lactation room up on the first floor. It used to be down in the basement, and it was horrible. We've actually got one of the best lactation rooms on campus now. So, if anyone is looking, we have one. We've also spent a lot of time adding art to the library, And again, it has to do with wanting to make sure that everyone feels welcomed and included. And if you've ever walked through our 1925, it's all portraits of white male presidents, all artwork by white men, including Grant Wood and Christian Peterson. Love their work, but it's a very narrow perspective. So we work specifically with university museums to bring in more artists of color, women, and then also looking at the content. Um, Looking at art that reflected more of uh, new perspectives, reflecting uh, uh, more women, but also trying to incorporate who we are. So there is a lot of nature, there's some architecture included in the art. So come in, hopefully you are inspired by some of the things you see around you. We also, on the second floor, as you come up the main staircase, you will see all the faces of Iowa, and those were painted by Rose Franzen. Started at the state fair. She sits down and like just a few hours, she like whips out these portraits, and it's just amazing. But it's nice, just take a look at all the portraits and see who they are. They're alums, they're current and past administrators, staff, some impactful folks from Ames as well. What else is on there? Assistive technologies. We just moved that from the LCC over into the new collaboration corridor. And that includes things like magnification and scanners to help convert analog into a digital format so that you can use more technologies such as Kerr's wheel and things like that. And of course, quiet spaces. Folks are always looking for quiet space. Right now, that's only the periodical reading room. Most of what we are seeing is that you all decide how the space is going to be used, and you kind of self-manage those spaces. I actually telling each other to be quiet, or I love it. The new collaboration corridor we really thought was going to bustling, and it's quiet. I was shocked, and you all set that. We didn't put up signs or anything. It's like you all decide how you want to use it, and you use it, and that's great. So I also mentioned collaborative spaces. Come to the third floor between, I don't know, 1 o'clock and 6 o'clock. It is just crazy. I don't know how you all concentrate, but at every table there is a different conversation going on, and there's like a lot of action. We've got the tutors there. It's fantastic. I love it. I love seeing everyone there. And then one more thing, just for another break, we have the giant chess set and the giant checkers set. And those are located down in the lower level right now. Take them out. You can actually check out the chess set. I don't know where you're going to go with it, but you can do that. It's like two giant trash cans on wheels plus the cloth board. Let's see. So I'm going to hit a few collections. Obviously, you know our circulating collections, but just in case you don't know, Special Collections and University Archives is up on the 4th floor. And they are the ones to collect the university history through artifacts and documents and materials produced through the university. They include the records of the government of the student bodies. There's something for everyone, and you do not have to be a researcher. You do not have to have a reason to come in. You can actually ask for something, and we will bring it to you, and you can look at it. You can touch it, you can read it, you can use it. We have Margaret Stanton's death mask. We have, you can come look at our tiniest book. You can come look at our oldest book, which is a 1475 St. Thomas Aquinas book. Again, no, you don't have to have a reason to use it. You don't have to have a letter of support from your faculty member. You can just come in and ask to see it. These folks can also help you learn more about using primary source materials and also how to use an archives. The digital collections. Digital collections is kind of a reflection of special collections. They are digital facsimiles that we've brought together. and mostly they are materials that get heavily requested. And this way we can provide them remotely to anyone in the world. We also provide virtual exhibits. So when there's something, a topic or subject that we want to kind of get out there and we have materials in the archives that support it, it may not be one collection. We might actually bring together multiple parts of collections, and we want to present something in context. And so that's what our virtual exhibits are. The digital repository is where you will find yourselves. So the digital repository is the research and scholarly output of our faculty, staff, and students. This is where you will get found. This is where someone will cite your work. So our faculty use this heavily. As we get these things out into our digital repository, researchers around the world find these materials. They're open access, so anyone can use them, and they cite them in their research. And this is how the research that's done on this campus gets out into the world, so that anyone, including the global South, they can take this information for free. They can further the research, or they can actually implement it and use it in practice. And that's exactly what the land grant mission is, right? Is we do research that we want to share with the world. And this is how we help do that. So of course we have thousands of journals, magazines, and databases. There was also a question about subscriptions, I think, but it was very vague. So I'm not sure if it was referring to the New York Times and Wall Street Journal, but we do have access to those through the library with your net ID. You can get access to these. You just have to set up an account. Not sure if that was the question or not, but that's how I interpret it. So that's what you get. And I'm not sure about the Washington Post. Sorry, I forgot to check that one. I don't actually think we have the Washington Post. All right. All right. So I want you all to partner with us, right? Stop seeing us just as a building full of books. Stop seeing us as a place where you can just ask a librarian a question. It's more than that. We want you to come in and actually work with us. It's not just about searching for books and articles. We can help you. We can help you shape an idea. We can connect you with the right databases. We can help scope a project for you and make it manageable. We can give you ideas on how to actually do some interesting research tools and methodologies. We can give you new ways of presenting your research, not just in articles, not just in a PowerPoint slide, but in more interactive ways. We can connect you with the librarian that has the expertise in your field. You just need to reach out to us. So I actually put up Find Your Librarian. It's a button, so you'll find that icon and you can find your librarian. And it seems a little silly, but it's actually a very powerful tool. Once you find your librarian, they can help you with so much stuff. They have the specialization in your subject area. They can connect you to others in the library. You can also reach us through chat and ask the same questions. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. And I've also put up, this is silly too, but underutilized, recalling books and interlibrary loan. I have heard that students don't want to recall books because they think they're recalling them from their faculty. Who cares? You need this information. If they need it, they'll recall it from you. So come in, and if you can't find something, we want to help you get it. So recall it. If there's that much demand for it, we'll try to get another copy. So some of our partners in the library, we have, the Writing and Media Center for undergraduates. We also have the Center for Communication Excellence for graduate students. And as I mentioned, on the third floor, tutoring happens. And I have absolutely no idea how you connect with that, but it happens in the library, and we're happy to have you, and we're happy to share our space with you. So a couple of new things, the digital press and digital scholarship and initiatives. These are areas in the library that are just starting out. And we're really excited about these things. So the ISU Digital Press, for those of you, yeah, you're all way too young. So a long time ago, even predating me, the university had a press, a print paper press, and we sold that. We've started developing this ISU digital press, and we're hoping that it helps with open access. We would love for folks to partner with us and actually start publishing their journals on our platform so that we can offer things up open access. But this also means that students can come. If you have an idea for a journal, if your student organization wants to start a peer-reviewed publication, we can help you with that. We already have one journal called Critical Thought and Praxis. We have a new professional organizations journal, and I can't stand the title, but this is the actual title, Meat and Muscle. It's an animal science journal, and it comes out of one of the scientific organizations. And we're helping them launch this on our platform because their publisher actually dropped them. So they've decided to work with us, and we're hoping to make this, again, open access. We are all about trying to get information out there without making everyone pay for it. The Digital Scholarship Initiatives is a lot of this is focusing around digital humanities. So if you're interested in tools to convey information in new ways, think about GIS, think about data visualization. We want to help you with that. Whether you have an idea on a specific project, or you just want to learn about it, we want to help you find out what this new world is. And we can help you kind of, even if you're, you can say, well, I know nothing about computers, right? I'm in music or something, and I don't use computers, but I'm really interested in figuring how music can play a part of this, or how this how I can use data visualization to make music look like something. Come on in, we'd love to work with you. And then we'd, of course, put your output into the digital repository forever and ever. And then finally, come tailgate with us. For those of you who aren't graduating, September 5th, we are going to host it'll be our third year tailgating. It'll be South Dakota State, I believe. Most of the tents during the football games are kind of by invitation, or you have to be affiliated with them. Well, you're all affiliated with us. Everyone is welcome to come to the library tent. We do have food. We do not have booze, but sorry. I mean, yeah. We do bring our memorabilia with us. We bring football memorabilia. We put it under a case, and usually we bring the Jack Trice letter. Sorry, it's not. I don't think we bring. No, we might actually bring the original. We bring some photographs. We bring the old. You're lucky. You don't have to wear the beanies. Freshmen used to have to wear beanies all the time. Stuck out like a sore thumb. So at the end of the year, of course, there was a big bonfire and they all burned their beanies. We managed to keep one. It was donated to us a while back. You can check that out. So please come and join us at our tailgate. So, like I said, come partner with us, spend time with us. We have a great new space. Take a break, relax, meet your friends, study, do some research, use our technology, get some help with, your research project, learn how to search some databases, find specific databases that'll help you out. We're here. We want to partner with you. We're not just a service. We want to actually work with you. We also hire a lot of students. So if you're looking for a job, and it's not just the folks that sit at the front desk. We have students all over the library doing a lot of important work, including the front desk. I've sat with them and they are amazing. They know everything about that library. They know things I don't know. We have students processing materials in the archives. If you're a history major, if you're just interested in old documents, come on in. We teach you how to process, and then you do some work for us. We have folks doing book repair. You probably haven't done book repair, but we teach you how to do it, and you do it for us. We have students doing tech support, and of course, there are other initiatives that we are interested in pursuing, and students would help a lot. One thing we're interested in is doing some oral histories. And, again, helping document the history of the university and talking with alumni, talking with staffs, talking with faculty. We train you how to do these oral histories to develop questions, and we would love you to partner with us and help us reach out and do oral histories. There's a lot of different things that you can do in the library that help us out. You get paid. You can do research with us. We have undergraduate research assistants as well, doing very specific projects such as the virtual exhibits. We have students that actually create those for us. So, questions?
Questions for our speaker. Before that, President Graber has an announcement.
Yes, I apologize for disrupting and walking over there. The link to the live stream on our website wasn't working at first, but we fixed that. So I just wanted to make an announcement to let everyone know that it works now.
Thank you. Senator Searles.
Okay, it looks like I've answered every possible question. Oh, ow!
Sorry about that. The question that everyone's dying to ask, what is the death mask that you talked about?
Yes. So you're familiar with the Campanile, correct? So Margaret Stanton was the wife of one of our presidents, and the bells are actually named for her. So she is a beloved member of the ISU community. And in Victorian times, it was, okay, the Victorians did some creepy things, right? I mean, they like clipped hair and kept hair and yeah, okay. So a death mask is really what you think it is. When someone died, they did a plaster cast on their deathbed.
Okay, thank you.
Little kids love it. K-12 students come in and they do tours of the special collections and they just love it. You have to come on in and see it.
Senator Easley.
May I address the speaker?
Go ahead.
Definitely want to come see the death mask. That sounds awesome. And then I just wanted to thank you for coming in, and then also everything that the library offers for us. And I'd like to say game night does get pretty rowdy. I've been there. It's a fun time. And then I guess September 5th, let's get lit at the tailgate. All right.
Be there.
I
Thank you so much.
Senator
Okay.
Klein.
I also want to thank you. I think the library provides lots of great services. As a history major, I have to make use of lots of them. So for $4.95, I spend lots of time kind of doing like a lot of the training or finding out a lot about the work that you've described here regarding like archives and special collections and stuff like that. Those are very hard to maintain, and it's incredible that we have access to those. So I encourage every student here to go check them out. You can find cool artifacts up there, like the death mask, like the world's, or not the world's, our smallest book, which is like it's tiny. Okay, you can't read it, but it's a book. It's fantastic.
It's a biography.
Yeah,
They're presidential biographies. I'm not sure how they.
but yeah, library is awesome.
Do you? Director RBC.
Hello, is this on? Okay. I have a question about the new spaces in comparison to the old study group rooms. Are you planning on doing what you did downstairs to the ones on the third floor?
The ones on no.
Ugh,
Sorry.
sad.
We are hoping to increase the number of, we're calling them collabs. I didn't coin it. I don't know. I couldn't figure out how many L's were in it. We're hoping to create more of those in other parts of the library. Actually, down in the media center, we would like to put more of those. So we're the ones on the third floor, we're just happy to have, and we need to add more. I mean, there's those rooms are in high demand.
And
So
I
is there
remember-
something specific that we need to?
No, I just love
fix?
them. I
Oh,
love
okay.
them so much. I highly encourage you to use them. They're great. And then for the Tech Lending Center, do you have like adapters for HDMIs for computers that don't have them?
We do.
Okay. Are they rentable or can you not take
Ye-
them out of the library?
You can check them out. You can take them out of the library.
Mhm.
You just need to bring them back.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions for our speaker? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving on to open forum. Open forum is an open discussion for issues relevant to students. Anyone wishing to speak can approach the lectern.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Kate Alucard. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the Iowa State University Student Government College of Veterinary Medicine Senator. Tonight, I am privileged and honored to introduce my colleagues and my classmates, some of the best and brightest individuals in this country, as they come forward with their experiences regarding bigotry, racism, and other forms of prejudice at the College of Veterinary Medicine, which I will subsequently refer to now as CVM. When I first visited Iowa State CVM in October 2017, I fell in love with the school. I met staff and faculty that changed the way I saw myself as a future professional in this career path, and I knew I wanted to attend school there. I had to wait 4 grueling months before I had a decision. And it was an incredibly life-changing experience because I knew I belonged here. But that was a privilege. And see, now that I've become a member of Iowa State's College of Veterinary Medicine, I realize that not everyone actually gets that luxury of feeling like they belong at the College of Veterinary Medicine. I realize that the halls that I felt at home with when I first walked in don't feel welcoming to others. And how could it? We have instructors making hateful comments that are based on prejudice and bias. We have students sharing racism and xenophobia because it's funny on social media. How do we cope with student leaders using slurs to refer to themselves or make jokes? How could you expect to consider an environment of any kind with the above descriptions as equitable when not everyone is able to feel welcomed and respected? It's not just a CVM problem. I have been working with a group of students, many of them here tonight, to stand for the students at Iowa State University College of Veterinary Medicine that are not represented in the privileged majority. There are more in the audience here in support of us. So if you guys could humor me, if you could raise your hands if you're a student here tonight who is in support of this bill, I would appreciate it. Thank you. I'm here tonight as a leader of my college, challenging the CVM to do better with a fierce group of other leaders with me, hoping that this censure will facilitate accountability and action. And honestly, I'm tired. I am tired of having to have this conversation. I am tired of having to fight for my friends who don't feel safe at the College of Veterinary Medicine. I am tired of losing sleep over bigotry instead of losing sleep over class and school. I am tired of telling my friends and family in other parts of the country that if they came here, they might not feel welcome, they might not feel safe, and they might not belong. And honestly, tonight, the real reason why I'm here is I am tired of saying there is more to be done because those are just words. Tonight, you will hear stories from students about bias, prejudice, overt racism, bigotry, implicit prejudice, etc. You will hear things that make you wonder how or why this is still an issue. You will still wonder if these are really the professionals of tomorrow that are saying these things, these stories that they're included in. But you have an obligation to listen tonight. There will be students in person tonight sharing, and there will also be students reading the statements of their peers or relaying their stories as they either cannot be here. I will also be sharing because of that. They either do not feel safe being here, or they fear retaliation from staff, faculty, and administration for being here. This is a very powerful moment and not one that I will monopolize as a person of privilege. Tonight is their night, and tonight is when the real work actually begins. It should have began days ago, months ago, years ago in the College of Veterinary Medicine and other parts of this university. People listen to students when they are in power. We are powerful. Our voices are powerful. We can demand change and accountability. We shouldn't settle for tolerance. So I would like to read you the set of demands and solutions that students of College of Veterinary Medicine have thought of to make this a more inclusive and equitable academic institution. There are 4 main categories. The first being recruitment and admissions. Within that category, we have listed CVM recruitment efforts and marketing strategies will be further increased in areas of the country and other institutions where there are more diverse candidates. The admissions team and associated committees will work with CVM diversity and inclusion, as well as Iowa State University's diversity and inclusion teams to set realistic and measurable goals to increase the admission of students with minoritized and marginalized identities. Staff and faculty on the admissions committee will have to have completed the online professional certificate program through the Purdue University Center of Excellence for Diversity and Inclusion in Veterinary Medicine. The Iowa State CVM admissions requirement will include a social sciences/humanities course that specifically addresses cultural topics. The supplemental application for admissions will utilize scenario-based questions for applicants that may be open in their intolerance, xenophobia, and/or bigotry and other prejudice. The university and CVM staff and faculty will be identified and selected to offer resources and mentorship specifically for students who self-disclose their marginalized or vulnerable identities, both in the application process and also during their time at CVM. This would be separate from their academic advisor. The Iowa State CVM will follow its commitment to action, including disclosing the voluntarily reported ethnicity breakdown in the publicly accessible class statistics pages, further demonstrating transparency and accountability. In the second category, we have cultural competence of staff and faculty. Listed here, we have CVM utilize other Iowa State departments, information, resources, and training in order to improve their communication, leadership, teaching, and cultural competency skills. The ISU CVM will work with specific offices on campus, such as the Center at ISU and the Office of Equal Opportunity, to increase the quality of education and environment for their students, as well as providing additional resources and mentorship. CVM educators, staff, and faculty will be required to take their respective online professional certificate program through the Purdue University Center for Excellence for Diversity and Inclusion in Veterinary Medicine. All administration, faculty, and staff at Iowa State CVM will be asked to read 2 books. One is called Two-Faced Racism, Whites in the Backstage and Front Stage by Joe R. Fagan and Leslie Houts Picca, and White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. The Committee for Diversity and Inclusion will also be provided time at least bi-monthly in staff and faculty meetings to present on any recent events affecting CVM and current efforts to improve diversity and inclusion. The third category we have is cultural competence within students. Students will be required to take the online professional certificate program through Purdue University's Center for Excellence for Diversity and Inclusion in Veterinary Medicine during their freshman seminar series. Current classes that have completed the freshman seminar series must complete the program prior to the end of their spring of their VM 3-year. Rotation schedules will be withheld if the work is not completed. Further implementation of diversity and inclusion education will be in other core coursework, such as ethics, public health, case studies, and other opportunities that can be implemented, such as the PCALs. CVM will make efforts to recruit culturally diverse people for the PCALs, as they are a main source of practicing simulated client communications in the 3rd year to improve communication skills and aid in dealing with different clients of various personalities, backgrounds, and cultures. CVM will make attempts to accommodate and encourage student attendance to professional development opportunities such as iScore, the Iowa State Social Justice Summit, and others available to CVM students, especially those locally available. And lastly, we have a miscellaneous category, where the above three didn't align with our goals and solutions for the College of Veterinary Medicine. They include efforts to increase diversity and inclusion should warrant appropriate budget allocations and salary adjustments for those staff and faculty members committed to increasing D&I and the safety of the students in CVM. There should be a reevaluation of the honor board system, especially allowing for protection of those reporting honor code violations. There should be recognition that prejudice incidents take as much, if not greater time, emotional, mental, physical health toll on affected students, just as infectious diseases might. Faculty, educators, and administrators should recognize this as a legitimate reason for absence or requiring extensions for assignments and other required courseworks or examinations. The CVM D&I committee will work with the student body to create a strategic plan to involve students within the committee. This may look like recruitment of student liaisons or another format of student involvement. This is modeled in many colleges of veterinary medicine throughout the nation. And last but not least, the CVM will create a campus climate response team that mirrors the current overall university one as a more focused effort on issues affecting College of Veterinary Medicine students. That list, we felt, was fairly comprehensive and reasonable in our goals and our aspirations for how we can leave this university as a better place for students to come. It is very important that when you leave it better than you found it, it's not just in reference to a place, it's in reference to an experience that others might have as well. So tonight, I proudly introduce my peers that have stood before me. They are fearless, they are brave, and they are the future professionals in the veterinary profession around the world. I will start by reading off a statement that was sent to me by a fellow classmate who couldn't be here tonight, and subsequently my fellow leaders and pioneers of inclusion will follow. Thank you again for your attention, and I hope that this is a valuable learning experience for everyone within this room, regardless of your affiliation with the College of Veterinary Medicine. I will now read the first statement that was sent to me. Thank you to the students who made this forum possible and this letter accessible, and also thank you to all of the leaders and administrators of CVM that came tonight with minds and ears open. I am grateful to say that I don't believe that I've been directly negatively impacted by racism or homophobia at CVM, even though I do not hide my non-conforming sexuality or my skin color/heritage. That being said, I have been a person of color since I can remember, so I can acknowledge that maybe I have learned to subdue things that would be taken offensively by other people with similar identities, currently or in the future. I'd like to point out 2 instances of ignorance and bigotry that our class has experienced that upon reflection should truly have never happened. 1. A white male professor made an insulting remark about not wanting to be associated with a certain geographical location due to its association with the LGBTQ+ community. This remark was cleverly slid into a lecture, but was off topic, unnecessary, and truly did not need to be said to get the point across. I was unsure if others who may not understand the context of this location took offense to it, so I more or less pretended like it didn't happen. But now that I think about it, I shouldn't have to, and it should not have even been said. Am I uncomfortable around this professor? No, I feel it is my right to be unapologetic in terms of my connection to the LGBTQ+ community, but I am just one person. This school should foster a place where that cannot be tolerated, especially when there are those who are struggling with their sexuality. 2. A white male professor ignored a student's correction about not categorizing the population of individuals that can become pregnant as women. The professor said, "I don't even know why I use the words pregnant women together because nothing else can get pregnant." Even after being told that transgender individuals can become pregnant, this professor consistently and seemingly purposely used the words pregnant women in their lecture. Their response to the student was only, "Yeah, okay." I noticed that students in the class laughed at the frustration I was showing on my face. I was in awe. I'm not really known for getting offended easily and usually will resort to humor in uncomfortable situations, so I can see why these students would react that way. But in truth, everyone should have been offended. I do not identify as transgender, and I, in fact, do use cis pronouns, but the lack of empathy from the class in regards to this professor's incompetence was appalling. This shows a level of social and emotional disregard from this faculty member that by this day I would have hoped was obsolete. This should not have happened, period. And I am still unsure as to what has or will be done to change this. In terms of consequences, I do see this professor with less respect and would probably not want to have a one on one conversation with them. I asked the faculty to think, is that hindering my learning? And if so, should it be that way at Iowa State University's College of Veterinary Medicine? I wanted to make a note that there are individuals in the faculty that I have received nothing but respect and willingness to learn from. They have not gone forgotten by me, and I hope by some of the other student body. Thank you. Vita Hanchate, VM2.
Hello, everyone. My name is Karen Chen, and my pronouns are they, them, theirs. And I'm a second year student at the College of Veterinary Medicine. I'd like to just thank everyone who came from or various colleges and also from the College of Veterinary Medicine in support of the students speaking today. I am here today to give some examples demonstrating the failure of CVM administration to maintain a safe and equitable learning environment for people of minoritized identities. This is just my second year at the College of Veterinary Medicine, yet I have seen and heard a number of racist, homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic, misogynistic, ableist, speech, post behaviors, etc. And what I will say following this likely will cause feelings of uncomfortableness as they should, because bigotry and prejudice is not. Hello. Okay. I am just one person, and I'm not even a very social one at that. And I've already seen and heard things that have taken a great toll on me emotionally, mentally, socially, academically, and more. Every incident that I've either seen or heard about is known to be reported to CVM administration slash faculty and or via the campus climate survey, which ends up being read by CVM administration. Everyone who has shared with me prejudiced incidents has told me that they either told administration faculty directly and or reported it on the campus climate survey. And if I personally encountered something, I have also either told administration and or entered it into the campus climate survey. Yet what has happened? In times of reporting directly to administration, they have tried to be understanding, and I appreciate that. But that is not enough. I have been thanked for speaking out when people say hurtful things, but bigotry is not just some run of the mill hurtful behavior. It is a completely different experience when various aspects of your identity are diminished, made into jokes, some violent, rejected, etc. I thought if things were reported by the people who hear them, that some sort of positive change might result from it, that administration would take timely steps to improve campus climate. There have been various people who have made good suggestions on how to improve campus climate throughout the years, before I even came here. People who have presented these ideas, whether they were upperclassmen, faculty, or administrators, have been told that their ideas were good. But where is the implementation of these ideas? This is why we're here today. CVM has failed to, in a timely and effective manner, take concrete steps to implement measures that would have created a healthier learning environment. Whatever the administration has been doing is not enough. Recently, likely due to the after effects of communications with administration as well as the bill of censure of the CVM administration being debated and voted on in Senate tonight, some professors have made statements in class regarding diversity issues. Some have been constructive, such as expressing the sentiment of learning about new things, making an effort to learn about various aspects of diverse identities, and making an effort to be respectful of different identities. However, one professor's response to becoming aware of recent incidents was somewhat problematic and reflects one aspect of how much improvement is needed at the College of Veterinary Medicine. Recently, our public health professor has been contacted directly by students about at least two different issues that I know about. One, in class when we were discussing public health issues that can affect pregnant people, he kept referring to pregnant women. It's understandable that if someone is unaware of transgender identities, that they leave that population out of such a discussion. However, when he asked rhetorically, well, who else would get pregnant, as he was speaking about issues affecting pregnant people, one student spoke up and pointed out twice that transgender people can also become pregnant. Instead of acknowledging that that could be the case, the public health professor just responded, yeah, dismissively both times, and continued to use the term pregnant women, completely invalidating the existence of transgender people in general and also any transgender students/allies in the classroom. In response to the professor's dismissive response, there were groups of classmates who laughed, another indication of a need for change. The professor was also sent an email about this issue, but he just kept saying pregnant women without even trying to change his language, ruling out well intentioned slip ups. Two, the second issue has to do with demonstrating bias against Chinese people when teaching about and discussing the recent coronavirus outbreak, making statements such as, will the Chinese ever learn? The professor was emailed directly by a student expressing the impact such statements had on them. Today, this professor began class by saying how there are diverse people, etc., all impacted by public health and expressing how he may make statements sometimes that offends people. His response to student and possibly administrative communications about diversity and inclusion issues in his classroom became problematic when he misinterpreted how he's been notified of climate issues in his classroom and said something to the effect of, if I say something that affects you, talk to me directly so that we can have a dialogue. People have spoken up directly in class as well as emailed him. Therefore, the implicature of his statement is a gross misrepresentation, if not an outright lie. In addition to that, ISU as a whole currently has a campus climate survey. It allows for the reporting of campus climate incidents involving ISU with whatever degree of anonymity someone affiliated with ISU is comfortable with. There are just some required fields such as, are you a graduate student, faculty, staff, etc. There are good reasons for people to either report incidents to administrators they feel comfortable with through the campus survey or both. People directly impacted by bigotry may not always feel safe communicating directly with the person behaving/speaking in a bigoted fashion. There is also a big power dynamic if the person involved is a professor, administrator, student leader, etc. So it is an unfair request to ask students to communicate directly with the person who will be grading them, possibly being a future reference when applying for things, etc. There may be a very real fear of retaliation. In addition to that, minoritized students already have a hard time being actually listened to in general, so they may not feel like they will be well received if they do communicate with the person acting in a bigoted fashion directly. But despite this, students have in fact communicated with our public health professor directly, and that is documented through email as well as classroom captures. Also, the effect of his very public request to contact him directly is the further alienation of those minoritized students and allies within the class. The student population, as well as faculty and administrative population at the College of Veterinary Medicine, is much less diverse than on ISU main campus. From the fall 2019 ISU summary of multicultural students enrolled, there are 9.18% self identified students from multicultural backgrounds enrolled as professional students. In our class of 132, we have about 14 students who visibly present as students of color. There are even fewer students who are out about being part of the LGBTQIA plus community in our class. Therefore, from the professor's very public request and out of the blue statement, it is very easy for other students to assume that there were underrepresented students going behind our professor's back, making reports about being offended by something or another and possibly getting the professor in trouble. Given current campus climate issues at CVM, the very few minoritized students and allies who have been speaking up may likely get further socially ostracized for treating the professor unfairly, as there have been comments made by various students already invalidating students who do speak up about bigotry, implying that minoritized students are just being overly sensitive for expressing how bigotry at CVM impacts them. I'm going to share a recent situation involving my class. Before that, I'm going to share a little background information as well as some of the standards set at the College of Veterinary Medicine. At VetMed, every class has its own Facebook group currently. It is typically started by administration and then handed off to student moderators to maintain. We are a professional school and we are held to professional conduct. There are rules at VetMed that go beyond what Iowa State University as a whole has for its students. We have a dress code. We also have something called the Honor Code, a written policy developed by students to promote integrity and ethics, which we voluntarily sign when we are inducted into our classes at the white coat ceremony. The Honor Code outlines what behaviors are considered academic, professional, social media, honor, honor code proceedings, and property related misconduct. The last line of the section 3 of the Honor Code, social media misconduct, outlines that statements which are disrespectful and unprofessional in regards to instructors, staff, clinicians, residents, interns, veterinary technicians, administrators, and students who are part of the ISU CVM are considered social media misconduct. It also outlines that social media includes, but is not limited to, Twitter, Facebook, Twitter, Foursquare, Pinterest, Google Plus, and blogging and other interactive media that is now known or created in the future. What is seen as disrespectful and unprofessional likely varies from person to person, but I think everyone can be in agreement that racist, xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, other bigoted statements slash behaviors are definitely disrespectful and unprofessional. In fact, I think we can all be in agreement that those behaviors are far worse than the words disrespectful and unprofessional can do justice to. Now that I've given some background to the standards we are held to at VetMed, I'm going to share a recent incident that stemmed from a racist meme appearing in our class Facebook page. On January 28th, 2020, a classmate of mine decided it would be funny to post a meme showing a wide eyed person sitting at a dining table with these words above it: Panned Emic Express. When you're at your favorite Chinese food place and hear a cough from the kitchen. If anybody here doesn't know yet, there is an outbreak of a novel coronavirus originating from Wuhan, China, a very specific place. As I'm writing the night of February 6th, there have been 31,472 confirmed cases of the novel coronavirus, with 31,162 of those being in mainland China. This meme my classmate posted was meant to poke fun at this situation. Before the post was removed by moderators, 32 people liked or reacted with a laughing emoji to the post. I felt very angry about this, as it was yet another racist joke about a Chinese restaurant, one of many I've had to hear growing up as an ethnically East Asian person in the United States. It also had no basis in reality, as there was and is no increased risk of catching the novel coronavirus at a Chinese restaurant here. I replied to the original poster explaining how there isn't an increased risk of contracting the coronavirus at Chinese restaurants in the United States, that many Chinese restaurants here have been owned for generations, where current owners may not even have any contact with anyone from China. That many Chinese restaurants rarely close even on the biggest cultural holiday, Chinese New Year, so there's very little chance that there are restaurant workers who traveled back and forth from China during this time of year. I also explained that historically, there have been many jokes about Chinese restaurants, and that just because the coronavirus arose from China doesn't make Chinese Americans more likely to have the coronavirus. I expressed that the meme was in very poor taste and asked them to do better than to make jokes at the expense of minoritized groups. My classmate replied, "This was not meant to be a personal attack on Chinese Americans, and I'm sorry it came across that way. Feel free to delete the post." Of course, I could not delete the post, as I was neither the person who posted it nor a moderator of our class Facebook page. A little while later, another classmate commented, "I think y'all need to take a deep breath and not fly off the handle about inconsequential things. Memes are meant as jokes, like the World War III fat American memes. For all you know, a Chinese American made that meme. You laugh and then move on. If you don't like the meme, just scroll past it. I mean, you can't just attack every person who posts something you don't like." Three classmates liked this comment before the entire post was removed by a moderator. The idea that it's just a matter of not liking a meme and that I attacked the original poster flips the whole situation on its head. Whose identities are attacked by such a meme? Is responding with an explanation for why the meme is problematic and asking my classmates to do better and attack? If you cannot see how this flips the situation on its head, think about this analogy. Let's say a racist joke is the equivalent to a punch in the face, which actually I think is much worse than a punch in the face. If someone were punched in the face and that person expressed displeasure at being punched in the face, explained why there was no basis for being punched in the face, explained that being punched in the face is problematic, and asked the person who did that and those who enjoyed watching to do better than that, how would that be attacking the person doing the punching? Even if the person who is punched expressed anger, and I don't know about you, but I personally would say that the person's anger is completely valid. The post and everything that followed made me so anxious and upset. I went to look for someone to talk to. I went to OASA, which houses our counselor and various people in administration. There's one administrator who has an open door policy, so I went to seek them out. I figured I'd see if they were available and peek to see if the counselor's door was open on the way in. Neither were available at the time, so I went to talk to our associate dean of academic and student affairs. He expressed empathy, and we both thought at the time that it may not be very effective to intervene in this specific situation. But I did express that the reason I was bringing this up was because this pertained to student climate in general, and that student climate as a whole needs to be improved. So back to the situation. Even after a good number of classmates saw my response to the removed post, some still decided to continue in the same vein. The post was removed, but later that day, another classmate posted a compilation of racist memes with the coronavirus theme on their personal Facebook page. 26 people liked it, 21 were veterinary students, most of which are in my class, and one was an Iowa State University undergraduate in their senior year, and the other four didn't seem to have ISU affiliation. On January 29th, 2020, another one of my classmates posted a meme with a picture of Anakin Skywalker with two lines of text that read, the first said, "When you're Chinese and you accidentally sneeze on the subway." The second line of text said, "I killed them all, not just the men, but the women and children too." This violent and racist meme was enjoyed by 7 people responding with a laughing emoji and 4 people expressing enjoyment with the like button. 7 of these people are my classmates. Um, on January 30th, around 6:30 a.m., I wrote a long post on our class Facebook page. I wrote, "To the original poster of the meme about coughing in Chinese restaurants on January 28th, thank you for apologizing when I pointed out the racist nature of the meme. I realize that nobody intends to say or do anything racist, but we all make mistakes. The important thing is to listen, try to understand, be more mindful, and make changes accordingly. To anyone who still finds the meme funny or thinks people should just take a joke, Chinese people, Chinese Americans, Asians, Asian Americans, Chinese restaurants, Chinatowns located outside Wuhan are not more likely than anyone or anywhere else to have the coronavirus. Absolutely anything can be phrased as a joke, but that doesn't mean a joke or a meme isn't racist in nature. If anyone thinks these memes or slash jokes are just in good fun, reflect on what it means for the punchline of something. Some meme or joke about the coronavirus is some reference to Chinese restaurants chinks, kung fu, etc. What exactly about that is funny? And if you feel defensive, limited, or like some fun has been taken away from you when people point out the racist nature of some meme or joke, think about why that is. Think about why you feel entitled to make these kinds of jokes. Think about the effect these jokes have on targeted populations. Think about how it's not just that one joke or meme, but that it is that joke slash meme in addition to all the other microaggressions slash racist jokes slash racist memes targeted populations have encountered throughout their lives. And if you see yourself as a funny person, there are many other creative ways to make humor without being racist. If you think the funniest jokes are those that target certain races, reflect on why that is. Also, just because one person from some minoritized population doesn't express offense at some racist joke or meme doesn't make it not racist. Even if that somebody from said minoritized population created some racist joke slash or laughing along, etc., it doesn't make it any less racist. Different people with different life experiences may view certain things at different levels of threats or offense. That doesn't make a racist joke any less racist. And realize that this is one racist meme slash joke among many circulating on the internet right now. Think about what it might feel like to be ethnically Chinese or presenting as East Asian right now. Think about what it might be like to see all that and to feel hyperconscious to even cough from having a little bit of a dry throat or from the common cold and to be or look like you're Chinese right now. And then imagine feeling like that for the entire duration the coronavirus will remain in the news cycle. In addition to that, what exactly is so funny about a situation where thousands of people are suffering from an illness? And if the argument is that it's to lighten up due to some emotional burden of hearing about the coronavirus so often, what exactly is it that makes life so difficult for people outside Wuhan that they feel the need to make jokes about the plight affecting thousands of people? Think about how any little discomfort from hearing about the virus sitting comfortably in our seats compares to what the people of Wuhan are facing. Where is our compassion? I then provided 5 links to various news coverage of the racism ethnic Asians are currently facing around the world. My post thanking the original poster for apologizing and asking my classmates to reflect upon their biases if they still find the racist meme funny somehow offended my classmates greatly. I do not know how many people and how much pressure they applied to the class president, but the current class president of the class of 22, before our 8 a.m. class, less than 2 hours after my post went up, messaged one of the moderators this, and I am quoting the message exchange word for word. Will you please remove Karen's post from the class Facebook group? While they shared important information, their tone of shaming seems excessive and unnecessary. And then they wrote the name of the original poster, which I won't share. Already apologized, and the offending post was quickly removed. Recall that I thanked the original poster for apologizing at the beginning of my post. The moderator replied, "Can I ask you what part of the post feels like it is shaming?" No one was called out, not even the name of the original poster directly. The post was an explanation as to why the meme slash content similar to that nature are offensive and prompted anyone who reached the whole thing to think about their point of privilege and that it is also natural to make mistakes. Just because their delivery may not be palatable to some doesn't mean it is excessive slash unnecessary. Nothing in the post was implicitly slash explicitly offensive, and deleting the post in itself would be a form of tone policing. In case you're not familiar with that topic, and then the moderator added a link to an explanation, which sends a very strong message about condoning the initial behavior of sharing racist jokes. I would first reach out to Karen and talk to them before I do anything. Perhaps you already have. I think it is more important to have people talk to the source directly rather than try to use Facebook administrators to tone police something that is not explicitly slash implicitly offensive. If the post itself is simply hard to read because there are a lot of people who are uncomfortable with the topic, that is not the same thing. Our class president, who is the previous vice president of the College of Veterinary Medicine class of 2022, current president of College of Veterinary Medicine class of 2022, vice president of Veterinary Public Health Club, secretary of the student chapter of the American College of Veterinary Nutrition, treasurer of SABMA Auxiliary, replied, "In rereading the post, I now see that only the first paragraph was directed at name of original poster. With all due respect, you know nothing about me, my background, or my opinions and stances on issues. Your insinuation that by asking you to remove Karen's post, I condone racism is extremely offensive. Believe me or not, but if you hadn't removed that person's post, I would have asked you to do so. I strive to treat every member of our class with respect, and it is my sincere belief and hope that you would not be able to find anyone who says differently. I look forward to discussing this more with you this afternoon. For some reason, the class president got extremely defensive about whether or not she was seen as a racist and seemed more concerned with that than actually listened to what the moderator had to say about tone policing. By the way, our class president has not to this day talked to me at all about my post, despite the moderator suggesting that she approach me directly rather than trying to use Facebook administrators to do what she wants. That afternoon, our class president, the vice president, and our two Facebook moderators, one of our class advisors, and the chair of the CVM Diversity Inclusion Committee had their own meeting about this whole situation. The situation being my post asking classmates for self reflection was too offensive and must be removed. If they wanted to, those who wanted my post removed on the basis of tone, they could have talked to me about my tone, so to speak, which I still don't see as wrong. Even so, they could have talked to me about that, since they did admit that I shared important information. Things could be adjusted if they warranted adjustment, but nobody spoke to me, and the whole issue hinged on a moderator not agreeing to remove my post and the class exec pushing for my post to be removed. Being so pressured, the moderator wrote a policy that would basically censor anything and everything that wasn't vet school related or direct questions for assistance, such as where you can get good tires. Initially, the policy also stated that any old posts not adhering to these guidelines would be scrubbed by the moderators from the page. The policy was then open to the class for comments, and the moderators and class president and vice president would then decide how and any alterations to the policy should be made. If I had not made comments about how diversity and inclusion issues is school related by using the dean's statements about working to improve diversity and inclusion and the College of Veterinary Medicine's role in iScore this year, and without another classmate's comments questioning the need to scrub all old posts that didn't adhere to policy, there would have been a seemingly impartial way to remove my post, along with all the other posts people have made in the past that weren't pertinent to school. I had a week of thinking my post would be removed due to the class president's pressure. This whole situation was extremely disheartening, and I felt very depressed because one, I have classmates who enjoy racist memes. Two, I have enough classmates who cannot listen when someone displays hurt in response to seeing something racist. Three, they find someone asking them to self reflect so offensive that my post had to be removed, and despite just being there to observe, it was disheartening and upsetting that even having a faculty advisor and the chair of diversity and inclusion at the meeting discussing what to do about the situation, that our class leaders decided the best thing to do is to censor everything and scrub everything, including my post. In the midst of all this, I wrote my public health professor asking whether he would be willing, if there was space in the curriculum, to also discuss the racism Asians are facing worldwide and in the wake of the coronavirus and teach us about the impact of racism on public health. I CC'd several administrators on this email, one of whom was the dean. The reply I received simply said, "Hi Karen, can you share with me the memes that you mentioned in your email? Thank you." I found this problematic on various levels as it asks me to look at these memes again. And as I stated, I felt very anxious, upset, and disheartened by seeing my classmates post racist memes and like them. Almost all who did not participate did not speak up against it either. On another level, why is it not enough for me to say that these memes exist to even express the need for change at our school? If it's proof that's needed, why does someone directly impacted by racist memes need to provide proof of their existence before any other discussion? I replied explaining that the initial meme I saw was deleted entirely, and I explained that I actually defriended the people who posted the other memes, leaving me unable to access those memes due to privacy settings. I, however, gave specific descriptions of the content of the memes. The dean simply responded, "Thank you, Karen. I appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and thank you for reaching back out to classmates and describing how their actions are harmful to yourself and others. We have to be willing to take personal action when we find something harmful to ourselves or others that you care for." This didn't sit right with me. Why must those impacted by racism or other bigotry be willing to take personal action? Also, to simply refer to racist behavior as harmful actions completely diminishes the very serious and damaging nature of racism. Why couldn't he name it for what it is? In a subsequent reply, I provided a screenshot of the post that I made asking classmates to do some self-reflection and described the situation of how it spurred such uncomfortable feelings in my classmates that it had to be removed either outright or as a result of some policy. Note that there have been instances of actually inappropriate or offensive posts in the past, either making fun of specific professors or just posts where comments got out of hand and people were attacking each other's character. Policies of mass censorship and retroactive deletion of all posts were never discussed in these instances, only in reaction to my post. My post with no basis for removal was a policy discussed and readied for implementation. I then wrote a long email expressing how personal action is important, though it takes a great toll on time, emotions, and mental energy. I expressed that what I was upset by, maybe even more than that, maybe even more than the initial meme itself, was my classmates and administration. Instead of expressing any indication of a desire to find potential solutions at that time, the dean did not even reference wishing to find potential solutions until after I sent a very long email asking what will be done about racism at VetMed, CCing various administrators at VetMed and ISU main campus, as well as some student leaders who I either knew care about campus climate or thought might be interested in improving campus climate. Only after that was there an email expressing the desire to find potential solutions. I'm not blind to the fact that some members of administration and faculty have been trying to respond to some of the bigoted incidents reported to them, and I do appreciate the efforts they are making, but it is not effective enough to create a safe and equitable learning environment for minoritized students at CVM. I appreciate it when professors make efforts to improve campus climate without being passive aggressive about being asked to do so, such as when our clinical pathology professor, surgical dentistry instructor, and virology professor acknowledged that there are people who use different pronouns by modeling through their behavior what it looks like to make an effort to not assume people's pronouns and to use correct pronouns of students who have disclosed their pronouns to them. I also appreciate that Dean Grooms, after hearing about recent racist incidents, as well as being informed of this bill of censure that was introduced last Wednesday, leaned into vulnerability by speaking at a student body meeting about one bias he used to have. While I appreciate these efforts, it is currently not enough. I do not wish to diminish what it took for Dean Grooms to admit his old bias in an attempt to model what it might look like for students to critically examine their own biases, but the manner in which he did so also reflects how much more education and work needs to be done to improve campus climate at CVM. In a student body meeting last Friday, Dean Grims admitted to have had a bias against dreadlocks and to not understanding why people would get them. He proceeded to say that growing up around cows, he often saw the back ends of them and asked the student body what is back there. Students replied with what can be seen, for example, tails. Dean Grims then continued by saying that he believed his bias against dreadlocks might have stemmed from seeing cowtails caked in feces and mud. My personal opinion is that something like this is better suited for a structured and small mediated discussion where people are honest about their various biases, and that his example compares where he compares animals with the phenotypical and cultural presentation of people of ethnicities and cultures that wear dreadlocks is too disturbing, as people from different races have historically been compared to various animals. And if this type of example must be used, there should be some component educating those at the meeting about the discrimination people, mostly African Americans, have faced for hairstyles using their natural hair and from their cultural background. I still don't find it appropriate to share this type of comparison in a general student body meeting. But if that had to happen, then there could have also been information about how both historically and in recent times there have been professions slash schools slash sports, etc., banning certain hairstyles. There have been fairly recent accounts of African American students in elementary school, even where their teachers have shaved off their hair without the child's or their parents' consent. There have been recent accounts of a racist referee forcing a wrestler at a school wrestling match to have their dreadlocks cut off right then and there at the sporting event. I don't know if there were any students coming from cultures where people wear dreadlocks in that meeting, and if there were, how they might have felt hearing the dean declare this particular bias with such a backstory involving animals, feces, and mud. Even if the dean claimed this was an old bias, it was certainly disturbing enough that I know that there have been students, multiple students, and staff who have expressed being disturbed by this revelation. Again, I appreciate the intent of what Dean Grooms was trying to accomplish, that of modeling vulnerability and sharing a personal bias. But again, this incident demonstrates how much more work even one of the more well-intentioned administrators at the College of Veterinary Medicine has to do to lead the effort to improve campus climate. There just needs to be more education about diversity, equity, inclusion, different cultures, etc. at CVM across the board from the top down. In a world where there are people from various backgrounds, it's generally a good idea when speaking about other cultures, identities, etc., to stop and think a bit harder about the potential impact of one's word/behavior before going forward. It is also a good idea for people with more privilege to make an effort to educate themselves on issues of diversity and inclusion, first by doing their own research, and only second by asking those minoritized people who have expressed a willingness to aid in some aspect of their cultural education. Too long have people from minoritized identities had to do the work of educating others just to be treated with respect and equity. That is a lot of extra work for anyone to do. Imagine having to do your regular job or to do all the work a student has to do, experience discrimination and microaggressions just for being who you are, and also having to explain to people with privilege what the experience is and unequal treatment as a person of minoritized identity. That is why it should be up to people with privilege to first do their due diligence before acting. If you even have a doubt that it might be offensive, it is very likely to be offensive. The recent incidents of racism on Facebook are just one example of bigoted behavior at VetMed. This happened to be one I felt I could more clearly express a response to. In other instances, I've just felt upset without knowing what to do or say. That often happens when faced with microaggressions or even overt racism. In my life, the number of times I've expressed some reaction to racist, homophobic, or transphobic microaggressions, I was made to question myself. People say things like, "That's not my intent. It's just a joke. You're just being sensitive," etc. Over time, I've learned how it is often unproductive to my own mental wellness to say anything at all, lest I be gaslit into thinking nothing even happened. Even now, I feel like I must prove that these incidents in my life are actually racist in nature. I feel the need to provide examples of experiencing in my formative years, such as when bullies purposely speak a bastardized versions of random words they think are a language that I speak. White cashiers suddenly speaking extremely slowly to me as though I wouldn't understand English even though I was born here and grew up here, and thus have no problem speaking and understanding English. Or when people mime kung fu as a joke. It's just me, right? That's what I've been told all my life. It's you. People have good intentions. It's just a joke. So know this. I'm describing very, very few incidents among various incidents at VetMed, and many instances involve student leader. For example, a student who serves as a veterinary student ambassador, as an anatomy TA, a leader in surgery club, and a part of the Revolution Wellness Committee made jokes about putting blacks and Jewish people in ovens. This particular student has been told that stuff like this is inappropriate even by people who are previously their close friends, but they don't really care. And the current Women's Veterinary Leadership Development Initiative president, SAMA delegate, VBMA representative, has been witnessed by multiple students to have described squinting eyes in photos as chinky eyes. And the current AABP fundraising chair and wet lab committee member, VBMA marketing director, has solicited new photos from female classmate. He has also made racist comments as well as posted racist memes on Facebook. There have been students who have made references to natives and ghettos in relation to a propensity for teen pregnancy, and sadly, there are many more. These are just instances I've either encountered personally or heard about from direct witnesses of these behaviors. And I am only one person, and I've only been here about a year and a half, and I and some people who have shared these and people who have shared encounters of bigoted incidents with me are not necessarily all that social, so we likely have not even heard a lot of what is happening at VetMed. How many incidents have we not heard about? Within my class, in upper classes, in the class below us? It's unlikely that I am the only one, though I certainly wish nobody else is impacted by prejudice at vet med. And these are just overtly bigoted behaviors and doesn't even begin to cover various microaggressions students of minority identities experience, such as when people automatically assume that the leader of an effort is one of the white people in the room and not the person of the color, etc. Or when people claim to be allies, declare that they are equal opportunists when it comes to making inappropriate jokes, defending and strongly stating how somehow it is equivalent to make fun of white people for being white and to make racist or other bigoted jokes. It most certainly is not. Having privilege means going somewhere and being assumed to belong, to be competent, to be a good citizen, and much more. It means you won't be assumed to have come from some other country when someone just looks at you. It means that people won't assume that you might steal something when you enter a store. It means walking into a bathroom and being assumed you're in the right place. It is definitely not the same, and people do not get to claim to be allies and to also claim that being an equal opportunist bigot is somehow appropriate. At this point, I wish to remind you again every incident I encountered or that I've heard about through friends has been confirmed as being reported in some way or another to administration or faculty. When prompted, administration expresses that they are working on campus climate. Well, whatever CVM administration is currently doing for diversity and inclusion, it is too little and too slow. Just in response to this incident on Facebook and the silencing and tone policing that followed, I have had periods of not wanting to eat, of anxiety, of fear, of feeling like I'm not part of my class, of dreading class, of missing class, of staying up until 2 a.m. writing an email hoping to prompt administration to action and take concrete and timely steps to improve climate, of spending over 10 hours, one stint being from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. with Senator Alucard and two other classmates discussing what can be done and working on the bill in front of you today. What I'm saying today, I stayed up until 1 a.m. preparing and also spent more hours upon updating and editing to account for recent developments. And yet, I had to do with being ill prepared for the small animal surgery exam yesterday, and with the limited time I have left today, I still have to prepare for an exam tomorrow. I also have poultry medicine quiz, public health quiz, virology quiz later this week. People with majority identities can have the luxury of choosing not to care about campus climate issues if they decide not to. They do not have to spend a second thought, time, mental, emotional energy on racist memes, being silenced, being tone police, being told the importance of personal action. Those that do racist things and enjoy racist things are just fine. And the silent majority do just fine too, letting things slide and be to keep some sense of false peace. Those who have done racist things, told racist jokes, made racist comments are just fine. Many are student leaders, as I've said, and many have good grades, many have put on the good mask of being a good student. Vet school is certainly a challenge for anyone who attempts it, but those with majority identities do not face the additional challenge of trying to make it through vet school in a poor campus climate. A poor campus climate is an inequitable learning environment. This is not truly a meritocracy when minoritized students carry around extra weights. Weights about hearing about classmates making jokes about putting certain people in ovens, violent memes about Chinese people sneezing on a subway and killing everyone. I know there are those at VetMed, be it classmates, faculty, or administration, who hesitate at the idea of censuring CVM administration. Well, to those from VetMed who hold majority identities, I don't have the luxury of equivocating over method. This impacts my daily and those who hold minoritized identities in ways you can never experience. So to me, if you have a majority identity and privilege, choosing not to show support of this bill due to hesitancy at official censure, yet verbalizing support for campus climate improvements is just talk. We can all talk about how we wish things get better, but just talking about it has not improved anything for minoritized students. This censure bill is an official call to action for CVM administration and an official call for accountability to fulfilling the resolutions in the bill. Besides just being a matter of general human decency and respect, students pay way too much tuition to not be able to focus on their studies due to poor campus climate. Senators, I hope that after you've heard a little bit about the climate at the College of Veterinary Medicine, and the slow and ineffective efforts of CVM administration to create positive campus climate that is safe and equitable learning environment for all students, that you consider pushing the bill titled Censuring the College of Veterinary Medicine Administration to the forefront of tonight's business, and to vote unanimously in support of censuring the College of Veterinary Medicine. Thank you.
No. Would you just replace the mic?
This whole thing is the microphone. You just have to hold it close. The microphone. Okay. Can you hear this? Okay. All right. My name is Allison Culver. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a second-year veterinary student here at ISU. So I'm not a practiced public speaker, so I'll probably never look up. But no matter how I sound when I deliver this, and whatever tone of voice I use, or whatever amount of emotion I exude, I'll make it clear now. I'm gonna take the whole time. Okay, that I'm hurt by the things that have happened. I'm angered by the circumstances and the people involved. I'm disappointed. And I'm ashamed of many of the people at our school. I shouldn't have to be here the night before an exam. None of us should. But we're here because this is important. The things that have happened at the veterinary college over my roughly year and a half of attendance, just like Karen, are extremely concerning if I'm going to put it lightly, and horrible if I'm going to be honest. I'll list just a few incidents just to give the senators more of an idea of what the climate is, but Karen did a very good job. Now, these won't necessarily be in chronological order. They're mainly in the order that they occurred to me. I will first describe the actions of my peers. There was a student running for an honor board position who was reported for using bigoted language in conversations with other students. The response by those who received the report was less than satisfactory. That student who used language considered especially disparaging to Black Americans remains on our honor board to this day. Another student made a joke about Jewish people and Black people. When she was told her joke was inappropriate, she merely replied with something along the lines of, "All my jokes are like that." She is a veterinary student ambassador, Revolution Wellness Committee member, and Surgery Club speaker coordinator, and I believe she has other titles as well. Yet another student described how her eyes looked when she smiled, using an insulting slur against East Asian people to do so. She is a leader in the Women's Veterinary Leadership, that's redundant, Development Initiative. Other students are also able to say what they like in the school halls or their Facebook pages, and they do not face the consequences of this behavior as they are still selected for leadership positions in the school and outside of it. which naturally it's a bit easier to get selected for a leadership position when you're not the person or a member of the group being attacked and you're the one doing the attacking. You do seem much more confident. Staff too share a hand in this. Professors at the school, a veterinary school, mind you, a school that's supposed to be rooted in science, there are staff members who use the words sex and gender as if they are interchangeable. When reminded otherwise, they fail to adjust. In one class, a professor said it was odd that a person from the Middle East was involved in fighting bioterrorism, thus implying that people from the Middle East are terrorists. The class thought this was very funny. In a public health class, as you've already heard, though take note if you hear of it again, and if anybody here was going to talk about this again, go ahead and do it because it shows that it really affected people. But in a public health class, a professor made a trans exclusionary comment that was corrected both publicly in class and privately via email and failed to change his language usage. Additionally, when he was corrected in class, students audibly chuckled at the mention of transgender people, and he gave no indication that this was unacceptable behavior. He allowed it to happen without reprimand. To be a trans person or an ally to the trans community in that classroom was terribly painful. This was a detriment to our learning and destructive to our mental health. This sentiment is shared among many people that I've spoken to. Another incident involved the assistant dean who was dismissive in students' concerns about racism occurring on campus. Not only this, but he said that he was worried that a few bad apples would make people less likely to want to come to our school. And so open reporting to keep students in the loop about incidents on campus that may threaten their safety just wasn't feasible. He said that although he is a person of color himself, he doesn't allow the comments he hears about people of color to bother him. And though I am deeply saddened and sorry that he has endured a similar treatment to the students in the College of Veterinary Medicine, he cannot assume that everyone can deal with bigotry in the same manner as he has. And although his words aren't as hurtful as those of our classmates, his position of authority makes them especially dangerous. I'm going to just take one of these. Even more so when we can, or especially dangerous, even more so when we consider that this sentiment of just dealing with issues of bigotry quietly or not being so sensitive are certainly not isolated to him. It's gotten to the point that there are now students who don't fall in with these problematic crowds, who are so worn down by these pervasive occurrences that they are either unable to recognize them as bigoted anymore or are too exhausted to bother doing anything about it because they know that their concerns will also fall through the cracks of administration. I fear that even with all we're doing, or even with all we're trying to do now, once we graduate, any progress we've made will be undone. I don't want this issue to be mended temporarily just to have all improvements fall away once we're gone. And even though I am rarely part of the groups directly targeted by these hateful actions, it hurts regardless. And it hurts even more to see how it hurts my colleagues and friends. I urge you to consider the demands laid out by Senator Alucard's bill of censure for the College of Veterinary Medicine and to vote in support of them. Thank you. Jesus Christ.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Bartlett, and I'm a second-year veterinary student at Iowa State University. Um, I have the privilege to not be directly affected by most of the comments and incidents that have occurred at College of Veterinary Medicine, so most of this will be my account and how I have witnessed the responses that have happened both by my colleagues and by administration. So I cannot speak for those that have been marginalized, but I can recount what I've witnessed. In the past 6 months, I've witnessed more racism, transphobia, sexism, and homophobia from my colleagues than I have my entire adult life. There is a clear systemic pattern of ignorance and apathy at the College of Veterinary Medicine. I've witnessed ignorance and bigotry under the guise of Iowa nice. Racist jokes are made by so-called equal opportunity racists, a term which is a little ironic considering people of color are frequently denied equal opportunity. What makes this so exhausting is the amount of apathy and complacency among my colleagues. When professors make apologies for their implicit biases or misgendering students, my colleagues have made comments not knowing what was wrong or that the people who spoke out need to stop being so sensitive. Every time a professor has made an effort publicly to be inclusive to all students, there's been a resounding criticism of whoever brought that up. There has been snickering by a large percentage of my class when lecture has been interrupted by a student who wanted to remind the professor of identities that should be included, which says to me that many students value their own comfort and 30 seconds of their class time over inclusivity. I do not think that the majority of the class believes that these racist, transphobic, sexist, or homophobic incidents were acceptable, but that many have prioritized their own comfort over inclusivity and speaking up for those that are being marginalized. To quote Janetta Sagan, silence in the face of injustice is complicity with the oppressor. We need support from administration at the College of Veterinary Medicine to combat these issues and lead by example. If students who make racist, transphobic, sexist, and homophobic comments are held accountable, more students will feel empowered to speak up. Thank you.
Now I'm here to share the accounts of students who cannot be here. This is a statement from Madison Miller. While in classes and hallways at vet school, I have heard many homophobic, racist, and xenophobic jokes and comments from my fellow classmates. Also, a few professors have made transphobic and homophobic remarks, whether intentionally or not, in lectures. Since this is a professional setting, I have higher expectations from my fellow peers and the faculty of Vet Med. These kind of remarks wouldn't be tolerated at a place of work, so why is it tolerated here? For an administration that is focusing more on inclusion and diversity, I expected more accountability from CVM faculty to show leadership by setting an example and not tolerating these kinds of remarks and pushing to create a safe place for all of the CVM students. Now I will read a statement from Sichao Mao. My name is Sichao Mao. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a second-year veterinary student at ISU, and I am from China. I hate to disguise myself as a victim because most people are very nice, so I just want to talk about my personal experience recently. The first time I realized I could actually be hurt badly is when one professor made a comment about corona in class. China didn't learn. They still allow the sale of wildlife. Now they're paying the price. I wouldn't deny the first half of his comment. Public health is still an area China needs to put more effort in. However, it is not wise and appropriate for a professor to say they are paying the price without showing any compassion. It was not my first time to feel uncomfortable in this class. Sometimes I questioned myself if I was being too sensitive and misunderstood his comments, so I kept my mouth shut and tried to hold my tears back every time I heard his words. Meanwhile, I was concerned that when he predominates the class, his comments largely affect students' opinions, and he was spreading panic and bias to my classmates. I decided I am not going to put up with this anymore, so I watched every class video, recorded the exact sentences that I felt uncomfortable with, and reached out to him via email. I just want to say that I understand he didn't mean to harm, but I can still be hurt even if he regards some comments as harmless. However, his response wasn't satisfactory. He encouraged me to read his slides and accounts to know his comments are based on years of experience in public health, international work and travel, an understanding of emerging diseases and authoritarian governments and their role in poverty and travel, an understanding of emerging disease and their poverty, health, equality, and he doesn't have time to always clarify and provide a basis for what he states. I was lost in his response, so I turned to Title IX coordinator in CVM to help. She gave me a warm hug and told me Chinese students are appreciated here. Her office is always a safe place for me. If I am uncomfortable, I don't need to go to that class. At that moment, I was touched by her kindness, but later on, I realized something really needs to be improved in CVM, and I don't need a placebo. Safe place itself is a paradox to me, which means I feel unsafe. You know I feel unsafe, but we decided to only disclose between us. And not going to class is not a solution for me. It's just a quench a thirst with poison. I know we at least need an advisor slash committee to turn to whenever and whoever faces a similar issue, and the advisor can always recognize the incident, offer professional opinions on what to do, and intervene in the whole process. My second personal experience is I don't want to cough in front of people, even though it's just because my throat is dry or I choke on some air. I always remind myself when we think of 5 freedoms in animal welfare, freedom to express normal behavior is one of them. But to this day, I'm worried about doing so because of the overall climate. I'm not an active Facebook user, so I might be the last one to see some posts. I was shocked when I saw the document with all the malicious posts compiled by our friends, especially when I found out the guy I often sit with posts a meme as Karen described before. The first line says, when you're Chinese and you accidentally sneeze on the subway. The second line says, I killed them all, not just the men, but the women and children too. Although we are some sort of friends and I'm sure he won't kill me even if I cough, it creates a tense atmosphere between us, and I probably have to stay away from him and avoid any conversation. That's how I feel further isolated when I'm unsafe. For all the improper posts, all the people enjoy those posts, I don't blame them much. I understand it is hard to empathize without similar experiences. Probably they have never experienced living in a foreign country alone, studying an obscure major in second language, and they never had a feeling that on the top of you don't know how to help family and other people in homeland, you're facing hostility from people around at the same time. And people tend to be insensitive to tragedies when it was turned into number, but the truth is when we see 1,100 people pass away because of coronavirus, it means this horrible thing happens 1,100 times and brings suffering upon hundreds of families. I hope someday those people can show respect and compassion instead of cold and sarcasm. And that's why I think we should include relevant topics of diversity slash xenophobic slash homophobic slash racism in meeting slash panel slash lectures. Besides the process of understanding the diversity and loving the people different from us is the way we are exposed to the real world and the basis of cooperation and win-win. There should be no more people feeling unsafe or unwelcomed here, so action needs to be taken for a better climate, and I urge CVM to respond with a practical way and measurable goals. Now I'm going to share what Yuqi Yan said to me. She said, I do think CVM needs to take some forms of action, e.g., send announcements, hold diversity and inclusion sessions slash panels, scientific educational lectures on coronavirus by unbiased professionals, directly meet with suspected racists if needed, etc. Although I'm not able to attend tomorrow night, I appreciate your effort and thoughtfulness, and I hope the discussion tomorrow goes smoothly and proposed issues are properly addressed. I feel that their cultural insensitivity and potential racism is largely due to very limited exposure slash experience of other cultures and fear slash reluctance to accept. Again, thank you. Now I will share a statement from an anonymous vet student. Oh, this is actually an account that was shared with me by an anonymous vet student. This anonymous student said, quote, "Unfortunately, I won't be able to participate today. I hope you understand, but I can share my unpleasant past experience. I will describe without including specifics such as gender, class, and names that would out this anonymous vet student. I'll call this person vet student A so as not to be confusing with too many pronouns in an effort to maintain anonymity. Vet student A told me that while it is common sense not to mess with other people's names, they had an unpleasant past experience where several students they thought they were friends with persistently called them various names, names that were not the actual name of vet student A. These other students started calling vet student A by various names ever since their computing device auto-corrected the person's actual name to an English word, a word that is not even a name. Vet student A explained to these other vet students that they didn't like being called by something that wasn't their name, as that was not what their family named them. The other veterinary students claimed to be joking. Even after vet student A expressed being offended, the other students did not stop calling this person by some other random English words. In vet student A's words, it was awful and I just stopped hanging out with them. I was somewhat shocked that people in a professional school, especially in this field which requires an empathetic mindset, would have such immature attitudes. These other students also inquired as to vet student A's cultural background. When vet student A referred to their country in explaining their culture, these other students would make fun of vet student A for referring to their background as their country. These other students also implied vet student A was stupid when vet student A asked these other students a question about something that ended up not even being included in communications vet student A received. These other students told vet student A to just use their brain instead of answering a benign question about logistics, an answer to which vet student A had no access to and would not have been able to find out without asking someone. Again, vet student A told these other students that they were being extremely rude and expressed that they did not wish to be treated this way again in the future. Again, these other students claimed not to mean it that way. In vet student A's words, if you made someone, you surely need to sincerely apologize. I'm guessing she never got the proper manner / common sense education. Vet student A expressed that they weren't sure if these other students were being racist and that these other students may find vet student A, in their words, such a pushover for possibly having a little bit of an accent despite living in the United States for over a decade. In vet student A's own words, it literally made me upset for the whole day. I usually let go of stuff, but it was something very unexpected from other vet students. Now I will share a statement from an anonymous vet student. As a person of Muslim faith and Middle Eastern descent at Iowa State, I have always been the minority in the room and usually the only individual of my background. Every day I walk into a room of mostly white students that have never been put in my position or have likely not had similar experiences to my own. I do recognize that in choosing to attend this school, I have allowed myself to be put in this position. However, this does not permit the fostering of an environment that is discriminatory, non-inclusive, and not welcoming to students of all ethnicities, religious backgrounds, gender identities, and more. While attending the school, I've had experiences that a lot of ISU CVM students may never have to experience. Of course, every individual has their own set of troubles, but the experiences I have endured continue to affect me each and every day that I come to class. Many of you may not quite understand or be aware of the type of experiences I am referring to, but please try to imagine for a moment what it may be like to be me. Try to imagine being the only one that looks like you in a room of 130 people. Then imagine that out of those 130 people, maybe half have ever even heard the name of your country of descent. Imagine being asked the question, what are you? As if you're not just another veterinary student, another human, but something strange and different. Think about trying to explain your religious dietary restrictions to those that ask why you aren't eating something, then feeling the need to explain that dietary choice in a way that doesn't make you seem weird or label you as abnormal. You try to construct your thoughts in a way that, when expressed, won't make your peers think you're insulting their lifestyle choices just because you do things differently. Imagine that your college's International Celebration Day comes along, but you do not feel comfortable wearing the traditional garments of your culture because that day happens to fall on September 11th. You do not want to be the subject of confused stares and insulting remarks. Imagine feeling a pit in your stomach anytime the phrase Middle East is mentioned in class, because even though it just means a geographical region, you prepare yourself for the inevitable discussion of terrorism, war, and hatred. Think about your best friend telling you that your dietary restrictions are barbaric. You try to explain your perspective, but they do not understand and dismiss your reasoning anyway. It hurts you, but you try to forget it and move on because you do not want to cause any problems. Every day of my life, I've had to take in experiences like this and more. Having protections for minority students, students that deal with unwelcoming and non inclusive environments, is essential not only for facilitating a meaningful education, but also for allowing individuals to live their lives day to day without the negative impact that these experiences can have. Thank you. Now I will read a statement from Kelly Hewitt. My name is Kelly Hewitt, and I am a current VM2 at CVM. I have been a student at Iowa State on and off since August 2012, and sadly, I feel the campus climate and the Ames community climate has actually made me feel less safe than when I first stepped onto campus. Veterinary medicine is a building that you can hardly see from University and South 16th, and we are on an isolated island. I had only heard tidbits here and there about the chalkings on main campus in the fall, and quite frankly, I am appalled. While Iowa State University is undoubtedly predominantly up of white people, it's not an excuse for administration to only lightly mention an incident of bias. Covering up an incident doesn't serve the community's goal to be more inclusive. It's just an attempt to save face, when all it really does is shove the issue under a rug. Knowing weeks after an incident occurred on campus that made my classmates feel unsafe is unacceptable. To learn and grow as a diverse and inclusive community, we need to have hard conversations, and those with authority and power must serve as examples by speaking out loudly, specifically, and timely to condemn incidents of bias in order for the rest of the community to learn how to respond. I am a person of color. I was adopted from China at the age of 9 months old and have grown up here in suburban America. This past year, especially, people have become more overtly racist. I am now more acutely aware that I am different. Most recently, in the fall, there was an incident in Frederickson Court where a student threatened to kill every Asian. When I brought it up in a campus climate meeting, administration couldn't respond. Perhaps it's because of legal reasons, but the statement and incident was reported in local news outlets so anyone could find it. I feel unsafe to run outside like I want to because I was reminded that not everyone likes Asian people, and the worst part is I have no idea who might harbor such ill will, and I am more vigilant when walking the streets of Ames or out at public evening events. But I but I also am in a position of privilege as a cisgendered heterosexual woman whose pronouns are she, her, hers. I implore StuGov to support a greater presence of diversity and inclusion on both main campus and CVM, as well as support more diversity and inclusion related activities that will appeal to students and actually get people to be put into a traditionally marginalized person's shoes. We need to lead by example and specifically point out incidents that are not tolerated because they marginalize a group of people based on race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, sexuality, or self-identification. We need to face these issues head on and not shove them under rugs. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't have like a statement prepared like everybody else had an exam earlier this week as well. My name is Miranda Thomas. I'm a VM3. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I would mostly just like to kind of reflect on what Karen just read about Kelly's statement regarding kind of a vet med admin kind of shoving things under the rug in a way, or not sharing incidents that have occurred with the greater student body. Um, it's a really strange comparison from what all you guys are experiencing in undergrad. Obviously, your guys' colleges and your classes can be really close, but it's very different at vet med. Most of the student classes are 150 students. We are locked inside of a building generally from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. And our relationship with our classes are very close. That's true within the 150 students that are within your class, as well as the 150 students that are below you. Myself being a VM3, I'm pretty close to a lot of the VM2s that have spoken tonight, as well as have experienced a
a lot of these issues and these events. I'm horrified to say that on behalf of the VM3 class, we have spoken about this very rarely, if any. The only times that these events are brought up is often at student body meetings. They're brought up by students that are affected by these events, unless they are asked upon by an individual that wants to do better. Generally, I'll admit that it's me. It's like me and a few other students that will ask about how diversity and inclusion is being furthered. And I will say that's true since my very first year here in fall of 2017. The only measurable action that I have experienced as a student was the opportunity to take the college the certificate program through Purdue University's what is it program Center of Excellence in veterinary medicine through Purdue University. I participated in that program voluntarily and for free with the help of Dr. Heather Greenlee. It was presented to the college that they could have a number of students take the program for free to see if other colleges wanted to include it in their curriculum and further support their students as well as their faculty members. I participated in that certificate program my first year, and I will say that beyond I believe seven students did the program, including a couple of faculty members. That program has not been available, to my knowledge, for students to voluntarily take since my first year. And with myself and the one other VM3 who took the program during our first year, we will be the last students to be remaining at the school come May who have participated in this program. I have been recommending that program certificate program be available to all students since I completed the program first year, as well as suggested that it be a required course for cultural competency since my first year. I'm honestly just really disappointed in our admin that events like these in such a close community have not further been shared and kind of have been passed over as emails of just remember that we're a close community and we need to take care of each other. I don't think that that goes far enough, and we need to do better and not just say better. Thank you.
I believe that's the rest of my colleagues' stories, but that is just a snippet of the people comfortable coming forward tonight, or those that shared their stories with us. We had a week not this past Tuesday, yesterday. Last Tuesday night, we sat down, the four of us, and said, what can we do to ask for better? And this is it. Showing you a very vulnerable side of veterinary medicine, not the best looking side, not the side we advertise across the country about being the oldest and best vet school in the nation. This deserves attention, and it deserves the respect and care of administration, just as other issues have deserved that care and attention. I hope that any future veterinary professionals or people who will participate with anything within the veterinary medicine community will take tonight and realize that even if it's in your own constituency council or your own colleges, you deserve better. You don't deserve to feel like this. You don't deserve to be gaslit. You don't deserve to wonder if you belong. It is a lot of money and a privilege to attend a university, but it is not equitable for that privilege of safety and belonging to only be held by the majority. I thank you for your respect to my colleagues and my friends, and I hope that tonight actually does start turning the wheel of change. Thank you.
Any further individuals for the open forum can approach the lectern as well. Time's yours. Seeing none, we'll move down to adopting tonight's agenda. Are there any changes or additions to tonight's agenda? Senator Searles.
Move to move 2019-3-11 SR to the top of general orders.
There's been a motion to move 2019-3-11 SR, censuring the CVM administration to the top of general orders. Is there a second? There's been a second. Are there any objections to moving that bill? Seeing none, the bill has been moved to the top of general orders. Senator Searles, you still have the floor. Senator Class.
I move to, sorry, excuse me. I move to postpone indefinitely 2019-3-017F, funding Taiwanese Student Association. The event was in the past and they had already paid.
There's been a motion to postpone 2019-3-17F indefinitely, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the bill has been postponed indefinitely. Senator Class. Senator Zastro.
Motion to add Senators Ludwig and Mass to the roll.
There's been a motion to add Senator Ludwig and Senator Masses to the roll call. Are there any objections to adding them to the roll call? Seeing none, both the senators have been added to the roll call.
I yield.
Thank you. Further motions, Senator Mass.
On behalf of the Rules Committee, I move to table 2019-3-009-Z and 2019-3-010Y.
Table indefinitely or? Oh. There's been a motion to table 2019-3-009SZ and 2019-3-10Y, correct, Senator Mass? Indefinitely, and there's been a second. Are there any objections to tabling both of those bills? Seeing none, the bills have been tabled indefinitely.
I yield.
There's been a motion to move to adopt tonight's agenda, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the agenda has been adopted. Moving down to approval of last week's minutes. Are there any changes to last week's meeting minutes? There's been a motion to move to approve last week's meeting minutes, and there's been a second. Are there any objections to that? Seeing none, the minutes stands approved. Moving down to committee reports, signing off with rules with Madam Speaker.
All right, so the two bills that we tabled, if you have any questions about that, you can talk to Senator Mass or Election Commissioner Rizvik. They had a long conversation about why those needed to be tabled. And besides that, we just did some bylaw review.
Questions? Seeing none, we move down to Finance Committee with Vice Chair Lipford.
All right, so annuals is starting next week, so that's exciting. We have a few funding bills tonight that we're going to talk about. Just one question for the crowd: is Peterson Squadron in attendance? All right, perfect. We were just making sure that you were here. And other than that, nothing to report.
Questions for Vice Chair Lipford? Seeing none, we move down to Student Initiatives Committee with Senator Stanley.
Good evening, everyone. Our meeting on Monday was uneventful. We heard the two resolutions that are on the agenda today. We sent 2019-3-008 SR, the Declaration of Climate Emergency, favorably to Senate, and 2019-3-011 SR, censuring the College of Veterinary Medicine Administration, to Senate with no bias.
Questions for Senator Stanley? Seeing none, we move down to PR Committee with Senator Meredith.
Hi, everyone. So we have our Valentine's event on Friday. So we're tabling outside the bookstore from 3 to 5. We have little heart Valentines for students to write what they love about Iowa State on them. And then after the event, we're going to go through and then give them out to the appropriate departments that they're related to. So we need some help running the table. There is a sign up on the MIS. So go sign up for that. You can just sign up for an hour increment. We just need 2 to 3 people to help. That would be awesome. Also be on the lookout for a sign up to help at the Canada open houses as well. More information to come on those soon. And then if you want to do the Senate recap tonight, let me know. I'm running out of people to target. So if you want to volunteer, that would be better. Thank you.
Questions for Senator Meredith? Seeing none, we move down to Diversity and Inclusion Committee with Senator Samuel.
Yeah, so we didn't have a meeting yesterday because of the vice presidential debates. They went really well. So nothing new to report there.
Questions for Senator Samuel? Seeing none, we move down to Civic Engagement Committee with our beautiful Senator Tonette.
Love it. Nothing new to report. Am I
Questions?
still beautiful?
Seeing none, we move down to comments from the executive branch with President Graber.
Hello, everyone. First off, I'd just like to thank all the guests for coming and the people who spoke. Thank you again for bringing that up. We really appreciate it. On Monday, we had our regular cabinet meeting. We talked about Heroes Week, which will take place from March 9th through the 13th. We also heard updates on the legislative ambassadors and Big 12 on the Hill, which will take place the week of February 23rd. And then we heard updates from the Director of IT, Student Affairs, and Director of Communications/Outreach. And then this past week, Vice President Bhatia and I met with Provost Wickert. We met with President Winterstein, and then we also met with Dr. Martino Harmon, who's also in attendance. So thank you for being here. I'll just recognize you for that as well. And then also today is Dr. Hurt's last day. Our Dean of Students, Dr. Hurt, is going over to Towson to be the Vice President of Student Affairs there. So there was a reception yesterday, just thanking him for his service. Again, we are in the search for the new Dean of Students. So if you have any input, feel free to direct that to me, and I'm on the search committee, so I can help with that as well. And then his email is still active. So if you want to thank him for his service here, feel free to do that as well. Dr. Hurt was amazing, so we appreciate that. And then finally, Music Hall is officially named Simon Estes Music Hall. That was named at the last Board of Regents meeting. So that'll be revealed during the iScore week in conjunction with that. We talked about possibly doing it with Heroes Week. We thought that iScore would be more appropriate. So that's pretty exciting. Simon Estes Music Hall. That's all I got.
Questions for President Graber? Seeing none, we move down to external matters. Within external matters, general orders 2019-3-19F, funding Peterson Squadron with Senator Class.
Yeah, if you guys want to go up to the lectern quickly. Thank you. And then if you just want to discuss what you're asking funding for and your organization.
Yep. So good evening, everybody. I am Simon Deemer with Peterson Squadron. And just a little synopsis, a little impromptu kind of thing with what Peterson Squadron does at Iowa State. We give a lot of opportunity to students at Iowa State with academics. We have the tutoring at the library that everybody usually has, but then also we have in-club tutoring for students who need help in academics. And then we also have physical training sessions every week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then we also give a lot of leadership opportunities to students in the club to gain more knowledge and leadership and critical thinking. And then we have a lot of fun events that go on throughout each semester. And the one that I was in charge of for this past weekend is we had 23 people sign up, but only 18 went. We went to the University of Notre Dame with a lot of other clubs around the nation, and we had a basketball tournament with the University of Notre Dame and other clubs that were, for example, at Texas A&M, Clemson, Michigan State, clubs like that. And so what I was asking for the funding wise was we had 23 people sign up, and then 5 of them dropped last minute. And so it increased the money amount per student that went to this event. And so just the main question was if we could get a little more funding for the vans. And then I also too had the receipt for the hotel rooms as well with me.
So we can't do hotel rooms, can't do lodging, PNC, sorry. So if you heard him say it was last week, this funding request happened 3 weeks ago, and then just moving through the process, we didn't realize that we needed to put a rush on it like we do sometimes by waiving first read. So that was our oversight. They have not paid for it yet, which is kind of where we could still do it because it is a university vehicle. They are like a week later, they get the invoice for the car. Therefore, we are able to still do it, and it's kind of, it was our oversight, so we're trying to make sure that they can get through. Obviously, this is typical of PNC, travel at 1/3, so I'm not gonna call a question.
Vice Speaker Schrader.
Yeah. So Senator Class, I guess I'm confused. So we fund competitive trips. Is that the section of PNC this is falling under? Okay, I just wanted to make sure of that because I know the Peterson Squadron isn't exactly a sports club, so I didn't know if that still applied. Okay, so I'll call a question. Second.
There's been a call to question and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to roll call vote. Senator Advet. Alucard. Bender. Khan. Crab. Hoberton. Dollinger. Fritz. Green. Gonzalez. Hanyang. Easley. Johnson. Class. Klein. Klein. Clifford. Ludwig. Mass. Meredith. Borger. Rice. Vinci. Schrader. Cyril. Stanley. Samuel. Fournette. Zastra. Ludwig. With a vote of 28 to 0 to 1, this funding request passes.
Thank you.
Moving on to internal matters. Within internal matters, General Orders 2019-3-11 SR, censuring the CVM administration with Senator Class. Senator Alucard. Apologies.
I think it's a compliment somewhere. So you guys heard tonight from colleagues. You guys heard me read this whole document, and I am ready to listen to any amendments that you may have or comments. But at the end of the day, I really do hope that we do pass this unanimously as a sign of solidarity that we stand with our students, regardless of whether they're undergrad, professional, or graduate. We did so when Students Against Racism and other affiliated students came forward, and we should stand with our professional students now. I yield.
Senator Searles.
Okay, first I want to address the students that came and spoke on either their own behalf or on behalf of others. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing. That's important for us all to hear. I think it's important to stress that we hear you. And if there's someone that doesn't, allow us to be the ones that yell for you. That's our job. Our response in the past, recently, myself included, has unfortunately been slow and sluggish within student government, which is unfortunate because as student government, we can be a system of checks and balances between the students and the university. When students need a coalition of support, we should stand firm to support their message. When students are in tears, begging for us to stand for their safety, it's out of fear and exhaustion. We need to hold that weight for them. We censured the Department of Residence for similar incidents and similar responses, and in that case, the examples provided to you all were far less specific. This I know because I provided them. We agreed that the DOR had failed and needed change, and since then, enough time has passed that CVM should have listened to those challenges, listened to those messages, and known that they're not immune to being called out either. Continued efforts by CVM students have been shown tonight quite clearly to either not be listened to or to be met with an inadequate response. And this censure, and furthermore any actual change that may have come of it and should come of it, are clearly necessary. The least we can do is unanimously support this. It's more than necessary. And it's really not that much work for us to say yes when people are fighting for their lives and listening to open forum for less than an hour is hearing the experiences of people's entire lives. So it's important that we support this, show that we are going to do our jobs, and that this will not stand at Iowa State University anymore. I yield.
Senator Ludwig.
Yeah, I'd like to echo the thanks to all the students who came out and shared their stories. I think that was really informative. I think those were some powerful moments, and I really appreciate everything that everyone shared with us. I would like to offer one amendment, and it's just a clarification. On line 128, I would just like to add the word administration after College of Veterinary Medicine, just to clarify that this isn't about the whole college, it's specifically the grievances are with the administration. So,
There's been
Point of
Was-
information, so the font size has changed, so the
Oh.
line, I assume that you're referring to the first resolve clause?
Yes.
Okay.
Apologies.
Thank you, Vice Registrar. There's. Do you accept it as a friendly? So,
Yeah. Yeah, I want to make that clarification because I think it's just important to be precise that the issues at hand are with the administration specifically. And yeah, again, thank you to all the students that came out and everyone who shared stories through other students. I yield.
Senator Hanya.
I'm going to sound like a broken record, but again, thank you everybody who came out. Especially thank you to Senator Alcard for dedicating so much time for this list of demands and the students who stayed up late composing these. It's hard to revisit these sort of incidents, especially if you're the ones being affected by them. And I know that for us to come back to this space and hear again that students feel like they're not being represented by their own colleges and by their own student leaders, that's very disheartening, and we need to address that as our roles as student leaders. One question I do have for Senator Stanley or anybody in Rules Committee, you sent this as no bias. Can you just explain why this was? Oh, SI, never mind.
There was a motion. I'll walk you through the procedure. There was a motion that the bill was sent no bias, and the committee voted on that motion favorably. I don't know why that member made the motion for no bias. No bias is usually used for like bills that could be controversial in one case, bills that could have significant amendments on the floor as well. I think the intent with no bias was to recognize that there could be amendments while also supporting the structure of the bill in its current form and offering no amendments from the committee itself, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that clarification. Just wanted to point out that this is something that, again, if we want to stand by what we were passing in October, November, that this is something we do want to support. So I yield.
Senator Kraft.
All right. Hi. Thank you so much for coming and speaking. There's a lot that hopefully resonated throughout our Senate. I just wanted to let you guys know that I connected really well with what you guys are talking about. I am from Orenburg, Orsk, Russia. So growing up, like when I was 8, my mom, I remember there's like some conflict in Russia, and she was just like, "Hey, like if anyone says anything like really mean to you today, like you can come home." And I was like 8, and I was like, what? So like just like knowing that it's still happening at like age 20 that I'm really sorry. And also I moved to amend I don't know the exact lines, but all the occurring, I think are spelled wrong. Occurring.
Do you accept as a friendly?
You're good, you're good, you're good. All right.
And if Senator Kraft is okay, I can fix that after the bill, so we don't have to
Okay,
spend this
I
whole
just didn't know
time.
if it was like that
Okay,
specific.
we'll accept it.
Okay.
I can fix it after the bill's passed.
Okay, thank you so much, and I yield.
Senator. For Senator Rinchi. There's been a call to question on the bill as a whole, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Senator Advet. Yes. Olakar. Yes. Bender. Yes. Khan. Yes. Crab. Yes. Overton. Yes. Dowlinger. Fritz. Yes. Green. Yes. Gonzalez. Yes. Anyang. Yes. Easley. Yes. Johnson. Yes. Class. Yes. Klein. Yes. Klein. Yes. Lipford. Ludwig. Yes. Mass. Yes. Meredith. Origer. Yes. Rice. Yes. Renchi. Yes. Schrader. Yes. Searles. Yes. Stanley. Yes. Samuel. Yes. Jonette. Yes. Zastro. Yes. With a vote of 29 to 0, This bill passes. There's been a motion to move to recess for 5 minutes, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we have been recessed for 5 minutes. 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8. We 21. We don't have quorum yet. What? Just recess. 22. Wait, who walked in? Do we have 22? Oh, we do have 23. All right, we're back in session. Moving on to 2019-3-18F Funding Heroes Week project with Senator Samuel.
Okay, can I make an amendment for,
Yes, you can.
the mass email instead of 52 and the, can I do it 26 and the quantity 1?
There's been a motion to move to amend the line on a mass email. And there's been a second. We move into discussion. Senator Samuel.
I was just told that we can only fund, one mass email, so that's why I'm doing it. And then the price would go to $678.70.
Do you yield?
Oh, yeah, I yield.
Senator Zastro.
I'd just like to move to amend, to change it from the,
We're on the amendment. We're still on the amendment.
sorry.
There's been a call to question on the amendment, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a placard vote, and there's been a call for unanimous consent. Are there any objections in approving the primary amendment by the way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the amendment stands approved. Senator Samuel will still have the floor.
Okay, I yield for now.
Senator Zastro.
I amend to change it from the student government discretionary account to the special project account.
There's been a motion to change the student government There's been a motion to amend the bill and change from student government discretionary account to special projects. And there's been a second movement to discussion. Senator Zastro.
Yeah, this should be coming from special projects. Call the question.
There's been a call to question, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a placard vote. And there's been a call for unanimous consent. Are there any objections in approving the primary amendment by the way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the amendment stands approved. Senator Zastro.
I yield.
There's been a call to question on the bill as a whole, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Senator Advet. Alucard. Bender. Khan. Crab. Hobbitson. Darlinger. Fritz. Green. Gonzalez. Hanyang. Heasley. Johnson. Class. Klein. Lipford. Ludwig. Mass. Meredith. Forager. Rice. Rinchi. Trader. Searles. Stanley. Samuel. Tonette. Zastro. Advet. Tonette. Or With a vote of 26 to 0 to 3, this funding request passes. Moving on to 2019-3-008 SR, declaring climate emergency with Senator Alucard.
Okay, so this was the second really big resolution that we had submitted last week. I hope that you guys all got a chance to read it as well as the sources provided. I know there was some question, there was research that wanted to be done, so I know it was also sent favorably. So unless anyone has any questions, call the question.
Going fast. There's been a call to question on the bill as a whole, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. There's been a call for unanimous consent. Are there any objections in approving the bill by the way of unanimous consent? There's been an objection. We move to roll call vote. Senator Advet. Alucard. Bender. Blair. Khan. Crab. Corbetson. Dollinger. Fritz. Green. Gonzalez. Hanyang. Easley. Johnson. Class. Klein. Klein. Lippert. Ludwig. Mass. Meredith. Orger. Rice. Rinchi. Schrader. Searles. Stanley. Samuel. Tonet. Zastro. Advet. Klein. With a vote of 28 to 0 to 1, this bill passes. Moving on to 2019-3-12Y, eliminating the depreciation account with Vice Chair Lifford.
Oh, yeah. So this is just removing the depreciation reserve account. We haven't used it in 3 years, so there's not really a need for it anymore. And we're moving to a new system. So yeah, any questions? Otherwise, call a question.
There's been a call to question on the bill as a whole. There's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Advet. Alucard. Bender. Khan. Crab. Corbetson. Dollinger. Fritz. Green. Gonzalez. Hanyang. Easley. Johnson. Class. Klein. Klein. Lippert. Ludwig. Mass. Meredith. Orger. Rice. Rinchi. Schrader. Searles. Stanley. Samuel. Tonet. Zastro. With a vote of 29 to 0 to 0, this bylaw change bill passes. Moving on to new business. Moving with a new business 2019-C-20F funding. I'm so gonna butcher this name. Descarga. Thank you, Senator Class. Latin dance with Senator Class.
Title. Yeah, we already saw them. If you see in the Mueller report, we already saw them and sent it no bias. That's because we're getting more information, but we will be seeing it for second read next week. I yield.
Questions of intent? Seeing none, we'll see this one next week. Moving on to 2019-C-21F funding and AV Tech for SG debates with Senator Zastro.
Title. Okay. So I would like to waive first read on this one, just because we've already voted on this. And then the MU came back around and said, oh, by the way, we're actually gonna need 2 AV techs. So they changed the total. So this is just funding a bill that we've already passed. So can I move to waive second read? Move to waive second read.
There's been a motion to waive second read, and there's been a second. Are there any objections to that? Seeing none, the second read has been waived. Senator Zastrow, you still have the floor.
Seeing that Senator Schrader is placard up, I will yield.
Vice Speaker Schrader.
So I remember the last bill was a lot more than $200. So is this adding a supplemental to what we've already funded? Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
Senator Zastro.
The MU didn't. The MU was thinking that for each debate they would need 1 AV tech, but turns out they needed 2, one to run audio, one to run video, just like here. So this is just funding the second AV tech for both debates.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'll yield.
Senator Class.
Yeah, I'm going to change the account to special projects. We discussed this during finance committee, but I don't think an amendment was sent.
I'll
There's
take
been,
that as a friendly.
you can't. That's not
Okay.
a friendly since it's a change of account. There's been a motion to move to amend the bill to change the account from Senate discretionary to special projects, and there's been a second. We'll move into discussion. Senator Class.
This was talked about in finance committee. We meant to send it along, so we're just going to do it on the floor. Call the question.
There's been a call to question on the amendment, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a placard vote, and there's been a call for unanimous consent. Are there any objections in approving the primary amendment by the way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the amendment stands approved. Senator Class. Senator Hanyang.
Senator Zastro, will you take a friendly to change AC tech fees to AV tech fees because it's not air conditioning? All right, I yield.
There's been a call to question on the funding bill, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Senator Advet, Alucard, Bender, Blair, Khan, Crab, Hobbiton, Dollinger, Fritz, Green, Gonzalez, Hanyang, Beasley, Johnson, Bass, Klein, Lifford, Ludwig, Matt, Meredith, Order, Rice, Lindsay, Schrader, Charles, Stanley, Samuel, Burnett, Jasper. 29. With a vote of 29-0, this funding request passes. Moving on to 2019-3-22F funding Healthy Walk with Senator Rice.
Title. We'll see this next week.
Questions of intent? Seeing none, we'll see this one next week. Moving on, last bill, 2019-3-13Y, Chapter 11 rewrite with Madam Speaker.
Title. This is the bill that Finance and Rules worked on to edit and update some of the ways that we do finance stuff. So we'll see you next week.
Questions of intent? Seeing none, we'll see this one next week. Closing announcements. Senator Johnson.
Okay, I just want to formally say thank you for your support of graduate and professional students. And I would also like to just recognize that there were members of the GPSS executive board that came, Ellie Field and James Clement. I have no idea how to say his last name, but they were here and they also appreciate your support. So thank you.
Senator Cyril.
Shoot. I have that person's last name. Yeah, Taylor. Senator Blair has an. Okay, sorry. Hey, we passed a climate emergency. That's cool. Not cool, but you know, it's actually the opposite of cool. It's hot. Actually, according to the IPCC, each of the last 3 decades has been successively warmer at the Earth's surface than any other preceding decade since 1850. So very not cool. That's one piece of evidence that I was going to whip out. Oh God. No, I was going to say that Senator Blair had recommended an amendment that we had failed to throw in there. One of the lines says, "Make public the fossil fuel investments in the university." We wanted to throw in something about also divesting from those. We didn't do that, but Izzy and I are on the new University Sustainability Committee. So that's something that we can push in there. So just in case anyone else had that question or concern, we'll bring that up. Friday actually is our first meeting, so we'll be doing that. Yeah, that's all I got. I yield.
Senator Hanya.
They're all gone, but I really appreciate everybody in Senate here staying and listening and being attentive to everybody who came in. I know that as somebody who shares an East Asian identity, that this was something that was very hard to listen to, considering that, you know, I have peers and myself who, whether they've got the cold or something, they are worried about this stuff, and it does happen. And one thing we also have to realize is that just because we address these issues within the College of Veterinary Medicine doesn't mean that they're not happening within other colleges across our campus. So just keep that in mind. Yeah.
Senator Green.
All right. I wanted to give a shout out to the legislative ambassadors that I saw at the Capitol today. I work there, if any of y'all didn't know that. So anytime they come, I see them. I'm also in pretty close relations, that sounded kind of weird, with the the representative that is floor managing the medical amnesty bill. And I'm pretty certain we're going to get it passed this year. And it goes through the Senate always every time they vote on it. So hopefully we'll get that passed this year. Yay! That is all.
Senator Ludwig.
All right. Now, I've been bugging you guys about lectures in February for a while, but they threw a couple new ones on the docket. So there's going to be some ones that I've bugged you about a couple times because they're really cool and you should go. And I'm going to just keep telling you until you do it. But there's some new ones. So again, I think I've talked about this one like 4 or 5 times already. But the Women's Hour, the great fight to win the vote, the lane race, is this Friday at 1 p.m. in the Great Hall of the Memorial Union. It's again a part of the 100th anniversary events commemorating women's suffrage. So really awesome thing. Go to it. Go to it. Go to it. I really recommend it. Additionally, there's a managing risk in a more uncertain world. What we can learn from surfers, studs, and sex workers with Allison Schrager. That is Monday, February 17th at 7 p.m. in the Sunroom here in the Memorial Union. Then these are some of the newer ones that kind of got thrown on. The Traveling Feast on the Road and at the Table with My Heroes with Rick Bass. And that is on Tuesday at 8 in the gallery room here in the Memorial Union. And then the Future of Human-Robot Interaction with Dr. Kate Darling. That's on Thursday at 7 in the Great Hall in the Memorial Union. Those are ones coming up in the next, I think within the next week or two. I really recommend them all. Also, Dunking for Democracy only lost by 17 this week. That's an upward trajectory. We're on a path to victory, and we're going to do it. I think we can run positive by the end of the semester. Let's do it. I yield.
Deep didn't score for the other team. Just Senator Stanley.
Thank you for those kind words. E-Week is next week. It's kind of a celebration of the College of Engineering, but you know, it's not just for engineers. If any of you want to come through, learn a little more about your e-boys, your e-homies, we'd really appreciate it. We have some dope speakers coming through, some cool activities like the Amazing Race. Oh yeah, the speakers are sponsored by the Lectures Committee. Thank you to
our Senator Ludwig. And it's gonna be it's gonna be a good time. So yeah, come through if you want. Hit up any of the engineering senators for some info, and we'd be happy to get it to you. Thanks.
Director Urbisi.
Hi, everyone. So the Lifestyle Expo happened. That was great. Special thanks to Senator Hanyang, Speaker Culbertson, and my unapologetically favorite Travis Ray for coming and helping and volunteering at the event. We had a speaker come for us, an interactive portion, come and do it on our behalf and sponsored by student government. So I have this little thank you card for him. His name is Kent, and he's a psych grad student who did mindful meditation. So I'm going to send it around and with a pen. If you don't want to sign it, don't sign it. It's okay. But if you do, I think it'd be really great just to show appreciation that we care. So if I'm going to send it around for y'all to sign. Like I said, if you don't want to sign it, don't sign it. Thanks.
President Gerber.
Yeah, so we're in a weird spot in the semester right now. So obviously, some people are having exams in the middle of elections and stuff. So I just want to say, take care of yourselves. I remember from last year when Vish and I ran, we were extremely stressed. So if you need someone to talk to about your campaign or just decompressing, we're third party people that you can talk to, and just about life in general. If you need someone to go to, Vish and I. Well, I don't want to volunteer Vish, but Vish will be there too if he wants. But you can talk to me about anything. Grab a hot chocolate, whatever. We're in a stressful part of the semester, so come to us for help. Here to serve. Yeah.
Senator Alikar.
Try to multitask. I just wanted to say thank you so much tonight for listening to my friends and my colleagues of different classes. It is not easy to get over here. I do it weekly. And they made a commitment, even the night of one of our largest exams, that it mattered enough for them to come and talk about these things. And I think it's kind of a good reminder that even after everything that happened in October and November, that it doesn't just stop. You have to actively be involved in the community to realize what's happening. And it's really easy to become complacent if you don't look for ways to make it better. And so I challenge you to take tonight to heart, to have learned something from it, to have learned that there's an entire diversity inclusion program specifically for vet med. It's pretty awesome. But I do want you guys to really think about what you can take from this and how microaggressions might affect your constituents, as well as what people might not be bringing to the table because they don't feel safe. So how do you make your college, your major, etc., an inclusive environment? So I really appreciate you guys supporting a very long bill that I read last week. And just thank you. It really means a lot. They all went to go study. That's why they left the room. So just thank you. I yield.
Senator Gonzalez.
Hey everyone. So I just wanted to say that this week is LAS week. So we love our LAS majors. Oh yes. And just a reminder, did someone say boo? Oh. So yeah, also just a friendly reminder that this February, Valentine's Day, we're going to be having the 19th Amendment Centennial Commemoration statewide kickoff. And all those events are going to be happening at the MU, so please volunteer. I hope to see you guys there.
Senator Fritz.
Hello, everyone. So seeing that we just passed the climate bill, this seems like the perfect opportunity to talk about this. So if I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Ames SunSmart Solar Farm program, but the city of Ames is building a community solar farm that people are able to buy into. So you basically buy a share. Now one share is worth $300, and then every month for the next 20 years, you would get a rebate of $1 to $2 back on your electric bill. So you would end up making your money back in a predicted 16 to 18 years is what the website says. So you could actually end up making a tiny bit of money off this. So this is available to anyone that gets their electricity from Ames Electric Services and is interested in shifting some of their electric towards solar. And so as a whole, the farm in 20 years will offset 113 million miles driven by cars, or reduce CO2 emissions by 57,000 tons. So this is going to be a pretty cool project. And I bring this up because I actually was able to talk to my sorority's housing board tonight, and they agreed to buy into this program. And so they'll be putting that in the budget for next year. So we'll have, buy-in share of solar. And so I bring this up because I think this is an actionable item that, a lot of us could do. If you have a landlord that you rent from, if you live in a sorority or fraternity chapter facility, this is something that, you could talk to them about and see if this is something that they are interested in kind of buying into. Overall, it has no drawbacks really. You shift some of your electric to solar and you help the city build some solar panel infrastructure. So talk to me if you want more information. I yield.
Quick comment from me. I support President Graber. What President Graber said. I mean, if y'all want more than just hot chocolate, I'm available. So I'm ready for a coffee. That's all. Vice Speaker Schrader.
Yeah. So my one announcement is that we are running out of time to complete your mentor-mentee meetings. They must be completed before the deadline to apply for Senate passes. Conway did one. Okay. Please let me know when you complete them so I can mark it down on the sheet so nobody gets an angry email that they don't need. Thanks.
Okay. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, first, remember to sign up to bring finance committee food during annuals. For those of you who have signed up so far, thank you so much. All like the main courses are kind of taken, so all you need to bring is like a side or like a kind of snack food for them. I've been told they really like goldfish, and I don't think anyone signed up for goldfish yet. That's what Madison said. Don't ask me. Anyhow, but the sheet is on the MIS. It's on like the bottom, like the tabs where you click over. There's one for annual, so all you would need to bring is even like a bag of carrots or like just anything like that, just a little side for them. And the next thing I wanted to say, I wanted to echo off President Graber and say to please take care of yourselves. I know a lot of you are getting very busy. As we saw tonight, exams are happening, so make sure you're getting rest. School is obviously very important, but please don't break yourselves down over it. I love you all very much, so please take care of yourselves. And if you don't believe that I love you, you can witness it while I slowly get more and more teary-eyed as these meetings go on. Go Cyclones. Move to adjourn. Move to adjourn. There we go.
Objection.